Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing. Chapter 1. Kyosuke Uchiha waking up to find herself transmigrated into the Naruto world. What kind of feeling is that? Others might not know, but at least Kyosuke feels it's an absolute headache. It's one thing to transmigrate to the world of Naruto. Living peacefully in Hidden Leaf Village, fishing, and flirting with the beauties from the original story sounds like a pretty enjoyable life. But what's with being thrown into the Warring States period? Holding his slightly aching head, Kyosuke staggered to a mirror. Looking at the overly delicate face reflected within, he couldn't help but force a bitter smile. The Warring States period. The darkest era of the ninja world. Major clans slaughter each other for their own interests, and it's not uncommon to see 5 or 6-year-old children on the battlefield. Take the boy in the mirror named Kyosuke Uchiha. For example. At the age of only 7, he's already been sent on a mission to assassinate enemies behind their lines. This is outright inhumane. Kyosuke sighed softly. Being born into Indra's bloodline means a life destined to be turbulent. Fortunately, Kyosuke has a resilient mentality and quickly adjusted to the situation. Compared to grappling with his identity, there's something else that's occupying his thoughts. In the mirror, his own eyes are glowing with an ominous scarlet light. Sharingan. Awakening the Sharingan at 7? That's going to scare a lot of people. This isn't like the Hidden Leaf Village period, where Itachi Uchiha awakened his eyes at 8 and Sasuke followed suit at 7, making it seem no big deal. Back in the Warring States period, it was rare for an Uchiha to awaken their bloodline limit before the age of 16 or 17. In the original story, even Madara awakened his Sharingan at 15 and was already considered a once-in-a-lifetime genius. Kyosuke understands that if news of this gets out, he'll immediately rise above the status of a disposable pawn and receive intensive training from the clan. However, extraordinary talent often invites hostility. Factions that are antagonistic toward the Uchiha won't just sit by and let him grow. Assassination attempts are inevitable. Moreover, there's that sinister figure, Black Zetsu, lurking in the shadows. If it sets its sights on him, young Kyosuke will have no way to fend it off. I'll keep it hidden for now. Tajima Uchiha is not someone with a forgiving nature. Tajima, the current head of the Uchiha clan, and the father of Madara and Izuna, is a shrewd, calculating figure. A true Machiavellian. Everyone likes geniuses, but only to a certain extent. If Tajima Uchiha perceives Kyosuke as a threat to his 2 sons, Kyosuke's fate will likely be grim. The awakening of my Sharingan is probably due to the merging of my soul. Kyosuke analyzed. I can feel my mental strength growing stronger by the moment. In short, if I can endure, I'll have a chance to turn the tables in the future. After putting on the light armor typical of the Warring States period and securing his ninja tools at his waist, Kyosuke lifted the curtain and stepped out of his tent. This location was in the southern region of the Land of Fire, home to the Nara, Akimaki, and Yamanaka clans. These clans had always been close allies of the Senju. Given the critical state of the ongoing war, Tajima had stationed a large number of troops here to guard against potential attacks by these 3 clans. Walking at a leisurely pace to the meeting point, Kyosuke maintained his persona as a reserved and taciturn individual. Outwardly relaxed, he was actually observing his surroundings carefully. On a raised platform, a Jonin from the southern forces was briefing everyone on their mission. According to intelligence, the 3 clans are secretly relocating members. The clan leader suspects they're planning to align themselves with the Senju clan. For the glory of the Uchiha, we must stop the enemy. Oh. Following the crowd with a few perfunctory shouts, Kyosuke fell into contemplation. His memories informed him that the Jonin's name was Hikoichi, a trusted subordinate of Tajima Uchiha. The southern forces were currently under the command of an elder named Rei Uchiha, a formidable individual with ambitions for the position of clan leader. Perhaps I can use this to my advantage, Kyosuke thought, considering the mission ahead. Don't be fooled by how righteous Hikoichi made it sound. The real mission was to slaughter the enemy's defenseless members. Eliminating the women and children would cause a significant disruption in the enemy's generational continuity, a devastating blow for any clan. Talk of relocation and alliances with the Senju was nothing more than propaganda to justify their actions. Whatever might happen in the future, for now, the 3 clans remained among the most powerful in the Land of Fire. Large populations and formidable warriors ensured that even the Uchiha couldn't take them lightly. Only a fool would willingly join the Senju under such circumstances. Uchiha may represent evil, but it's not like the Senju are saints either. Still, Kyosuke underestimated the ignorance of some of his clansmen. The twisted expressions and endless cursing from those around him reminded him that the Uchiha were indeed prone to fanatical behavior. Paranoia is truly terrifying. Kyosuke muttered, a sense of unease growing within him. The Nara clan, known for their intelligence, wasn't likely to leave their descendants vulnerable. At this moment, two words echoed in Kyosuke's mind: trap. What should I do? Step forward and advise against it? After a moment of thought, he rejected the idea. These are not things a 7-year-old should know. If I speak out, it will only lead to interrogation and punishment. After much internal debate, Kyosuke could only come up with a less than ideal plan. If things go south, he'll escape the clan's control, leave a land of fire, and seek refuge elsewhere. The land of earth isn't a bad option. Even in the later stages, it holds its own among the strong nations. The land of water, though, is out of the question. It's even more chaotic than the land of fire. Just as Kyosuke was mulling over plans of defection, he realized that the situation wasn't unfolding as expected. On the southern battlefield, faced with escalating Uchiha aggression, the Nara clan decided to secretly relocate their members. To prevent spies from exposing their plans, the Nara set up several smoke screens to mislead the enemy and even create opportunities to counterattack. If Uchiha acted recklessly, the war might end sooner than anticipated. However, the Nara clan never expected their carefully guarded plan to encounter an unexpected leak. By the time the three clan leaders received word, the southern forces were already closing in on the transport team. Quick! Reinforce them at all costs! Roared the Akimeki clan leader, his voice echoing across their camp. Meanwhile, Kyosuke found himself somewhat bewildered. It wasn't because they had fallen for a trap, on the contrary, the mission was proceeding unusually smoothly. It felt almost as if the enemy was deliberately delivering themselves to the Uchiha. This unsettling development left Kyosuke with a creeping sense of dread, as if invisible hands were orchestrating everything behind the scenes. Suppressing his unease, Kyosuke looked at the trembling women and children before him and fell into deep thought. To kill or not to kill? Chapter 2. A palm strike falling from the sky. Captain, what should we do with the corpses? Looking at the ground littered with corpses, Hikoichi Uchiha smiled in satisfaction. Leave them here and let those people come to clean up the mess. Today, most of the heirs of the three clans were slaughtered. In the future, these clans would inevitably decline, falling from prestigious lineages to small, sparsely populated families. By then, they would no longer pose any threat to the Uchiha. Discarding the blood-stained kunai in his hand, Kyosuke took a deep breath. He had finally made his move. He thought his heart would be in turmoil, but to his surprise, he felt unusually calm at this moment. I've calmly accepted the act of killing. It seems I am well suited to survive in the world of ninjas. With a mocking curve on his lips, Kyosuke stepped aside, unwilling to participate in the cleanup of the battlefield. Suddenly, a strong sense of dread washed over him, making his entire body tremble. Looking up in panic, he saw a colossal hand descending from the sky, like a canopy crushing down on everyone. Do you remember the palm technique that descends from the sky? Others might not, but Kyosuke would never forget this scene today. Ninja art, partial multi-size jutsu. I'll kill you all. Akimeki Mitsutaka's furious roar resounded across the battlefield. Feeling the earth tremble beneath him, Kyosuke rolled awkwardly on the ground a few times. Using the thick smoke and dust as cover, he scrambled back to his side of the camp. Glancing at the bodies of a few Uchiha Genin, Kyosuke took a few steps back, preparing to retreat at any moment. When faced with an unstoppable force, there's no need to outrun the enemy. Just outrun your comrades. Compared to a young kid, Hikoichi Uchiha was clearly the primary target of the opponent's wrath. Akimeki Mitsutaka, the current head of the Akimeki clan, was said to possess strength at the peak of elite Jonin. Using the rankings from the Warring States period, he was only a step away from the clan leader level. On the other hand, Hikoichi Uchiha, the leader of their team, was just an ordinary Jonin. Even with the support of the Sharingan, he couldn't possibly bridge the vast gap in strength between them. Staring at the crater in the ground, Hikoichi sneered disdainfully. In his mind, the Uchiha were invincible. Why would they fear the Akimeki clan? If the Yamanaka and Nara clans were present, it would be a different story. But now, he had already fantasized about the rewards he would receive after defeating the Akimeki clan leader. Charge. Leave no one alive. Akimeki Mitsutaka did not waste time talking. Blood debts must be repaid in blood. Humphrey, I've been wanting to face you. Both sides had similar numbers. For the Uchiha, having too many members would hinder their actions. Besides, Finding cannon fodder willing to venture deep into enemy territory wasn't easy. As for Akimeki's reinforcements, the urgency of the situation left no time to gather more people. With fewer than 20 people on both sides combined, a brutal battle erupted on the blood-soaked path. A bunch of lunatics. Gritting his teeth, Kyosuke grabbed a kunai and charged at an Akimeki youth. He did want to run, but he needed his comrades to cover him. Escape on his own? He wouldn't even make it out of Akimeki territory before being caught and brought back. No choice. I need to take out the enemy in front of me first. With a burst of chakra from his feet, Kyosuke leaped into the air. In this era, the education provided by clans to their young descendants was far from reliable. Even though he was on the battlefield, all he had to rely on was a decent grasp of throwing skills and not much else. Oh, based on the original body's memories, he could at least perform the 3 basic ninja jutsu proficiently and had learned the rudimentary sword dart passed down in the Uchiha clan. Why rudimentary? Because ordinary clan members didn't have access to advanced sword dart techniques. Hopefully, no one notices. At a critical moment, Kyosuke couldn't hold back any longer. His eyes focused, and his pupils began to emit a red glow, with a single black tomoe slowly spinning within. Sharingan, activated. With the keen perception granted by the Sharingan, he raised his hand and hurled 3 kunai in quick succession at the enemy. Tricks like this? The Akimeki youth scoffed, raising his arm to deflect the kunai headed his way. Unexpectedly, the kunai collided midair, and by the time he sensed something was wrong, one had already pierced the back of his head. System notice, defeated Akimeki clan gained 45 points. The sudden notification almost made Kyosuke lose his footing upon landing. Shocked by the message, he forgot to deactivate his Sharingan, and the red glow in his eyes was noticed by everyone around. Damn. Kyosuke quickly slipped back into his group's ranks, fearing that the enemy would focus on him. He activated the Sharingan? If I'm not mistaken, Kyosuke is only 6 or 7 years old. Taking a deep breath, Hikoichi Uchiha pulled out 2 smoke bombs and threw them to the ground. Retreat. Everyone, retreat now. Whether Kyosuke was 6 or 7, his displayed talent was unprecedented in the Uchiha clan's history. Even if all of them died, they couldn't allow such a gifted youngster to perish here. Having eliminated the heirs of 3 clans and uncovered a prodigious talent, Hikoichi Uchiha could already see himself rising to glory. In his mind, Kyosuke had awakened his Sharingan during a life-or-death battle, which meant he deserved part of the credit. Without Hikoichi's discerning eye and insistence on bringing Kyosuke, how could the clan have discovered such an exceptional prodigy? Unaware of these shameless thoughts, Kyosuke, shielded by his comrades, quickly recalled the notification that had appeared in his mind. System name, Kyosuke Uchiha age, 7 physical strength, below average mental strength, elite gain in chakra reserve, below average abilities, Uchiha sword art, level 1, 3 basic jutsu, level 3, throwing techniques, level 5, chakra control, level 1, hand seals, level 1, bloodline limit, Sharingan, 1 tomoe, summoning beast, non-ninja tools, non-points, 45, as expected. What's a transmigration without a system? Due to his age, his physical strength was equivalent to a ninja academy student. His chakra reserves were also limited. His underdeveloped body couldn't refine large amounts of chakra. The only notable aspect was his mental strength, which had reached the level of an elite gain-in. Much like his accidentally awakened Sharingan, this was likely due to the fusion of his soul. In other words, his mental strength would grow at twice the normal rate. Or perhaps even faster. Level 1 Uchiha sword dart were basic at best, and not particularly effective in combat. The 3 basic jutsu could be life-saving in critical moments. Throwing techniques were deadly and, when combined with certain unique ninja techniques, could even threaten Kage-level opponents. Chakra control? Not worth mentioning. Finally, Kyosuke turned his attention to the points section. The activation of the system was triggered by his killing of an Akimeki gain-in. This meant that points were the most valuable aspect of the system. But what could they be used for? Chapter 3 The Point Redemption System. When Kyosuke focused his thoughts on the points section, a window filled with various items popped up. It had everything imaginable, such as the bloodlines of powerful individuals, secret ninja techniques, and even the seed of the god tree in its initial state. Bloodlines, Rinnegan, Sage Body, Ultimate, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Kama Seal, Tenseigan, etc. Abilities, Truth-Seeking Orbs, Infinite Tsukaimi, Amanamanaka, Amanajikara, Limbo, Border Jail, Yamatsu Hirasaka, Sukuna Hikona, Daikekuten, Kami, 80 Gods Vacuum Attack, etc. Items, Seed of the God Tree, Initial State, Universal Recovery Elixirs, Scientific Ninja Tools, Complete Concept Set, Gene Technology, World Class, Yata Mirror, Kusanagi Sword, Multiple variants, body restoration medicine, and so on. The dazzling array of products almost made Kyosuke drool. Just give me one of these to show off. He forcibly diverted his gaze from the bloodlines like the Rinnegan and looked at the string of zeros behind the point costs. Killing one Genin earned me 45 points. It seems that the points awarded vary based on the enemy's strength. Even within the same rank, the points aren't fixed at 45. As these thoughts raced through his mind, Kyosuke was tempted to try again. Currently, his chakra reserves were insufficient, and his Sharingan could only be maintained for a few seconds. Even so, combined with his excellent kunai throwing techniques, he could still handle an average-level Genin. After completing his mission successfully, the next concern was escaping. The ninja from the 3 clans would never let the perpetrator leave easily, making it clear they had no shortage of test subjects. While moving, Hikoyachi Uchiha paid particular attention to observing the young Kyosuke. Seeing his calm demeanor, Hikone couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. No wonder he awakened the Sharingan. With his temperament alone, as long as he survives, he's destined to become a pillar of the clan. Speaking of pillars, a particular figure suddenly surfaced in Hikone's mind. Comparing the two, he hesitated for a moment. Come to think of it, the young clan leader hasn't awakened his bloodline powers yet. In that instant, the joy in his heart seemed to diminish inexplicably. Hikoyachi Uchiha came from a humble background, personally trained by clan leader Tajima, and his loyalty was unquestionable. As the saying goes, where one stands determines their perspective. Since he sided with Tajima Uchiha, he naturally considered the clan leader's interests above all else. The boy's exceptional talent could potentially threaten the young clan leader's position in the future. Something Tajima would not want to see. Forget it. Let's observe for now. If he knows his place, everything can be negotiated. In the following days, attacks from the 3 clans were relentless. One by one, Kyosuke's companions fell, and even the squad captain was injured. Naturally, Kyosuke wasn't spared either. In a dilapidated hut, Kyosuke untied a bandage around his waist, applied new medicine to his wounds, and wrapped them again. Over the past few days, he had participated in multiple battles, killing 5 Genin-level pursuers. The points he earned were 32, 46, 28, 51, and 62, totaling 219 points. Adding the points from the Akimeki boy he defeated earlier, he now had 264 points. It turned out that Kyosuke's guess was correct. The points earned varied significantly depending on the ninja's strength. With the Sharingan's enhancement, Kyosuke had been able to instantly kill his enemies until he encountered the 62-point youth, which resulted in a serious abdominal injury. Leaning lightly against the hut's wall, Kyosuke habitually browsed the product list, only to feel a growing sense of frustration. Even basic D-rank ninjutsu required 1,000 points to redeem, and the fire style, Great Fireball, hailed in the original story as near impossible to counter, cost a whopping 2,200 points. Lightly touching the wound on his abdomen, Kyosuke adjusted his future plans in his mind. When I return to the clan, my status will undoubtedly improve significantly. Points are hard to come by, so I can't waste them on ordinary ninjutsu. If I must redeem something, it has to be a ninjutsu with strategic significance. Looking out at the drizzling rain, Kyosuke shook his head silently, lamenting the hellish difficulty of his starting point. Don't be fooled by how easily he earned points. It was only possible because other clan members were risking their lives to protect him. Even so, if Kyosuke weren't calm, ruthless, and decisive, he would have died countless times by now. At this moment, the boy only wanted to escape this turmoil and return to the clan safely. At least until he mastered some ninjutsu before taking risks again. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sharp sound of projectiles tearing through the air suddenly rang out. Hikoyachi Uchiha, who had been half kneeling, immediately stood up and formed Earth-style seals, creating a defensive barrier that enveloped everyone. Careful, enemy attack. Boom. A violent explosion erupted. To kill them, the 3 clans had even used explosive tags. Strategic-level weapons in the Warring States era. Given the immature production process, explosive tags were high-end luxury items that even Jonin rarely carried. This showed just how strong the enemy's killing intent was. Through the cracks in the barrier, Kyosuke glanced outside and roughly estimated the number of pursuers, 9 in total, forming 3 teams. On their side? Besides himself, an injured fighter, only Captain Hikoyachi and 2 other strong Genin remained. Uchiha scum, get out here and die. The leader shouted wildly, but he was secretly forming seals. A shadowy, intangible figure crept silently along the roofline. Nara clan secret technique, shadow manipulation. By the time the group noticed, their bodies were already immobilized. Even Kyosuke began to panic. What the hell? Are we done for? But he quickly calmed down because their captain, Hikoyachi, remained utterly composed from start to finish. "Idiots," Hikone sneered softly, his smile dripping with mockery. Although Kyosuke didn't understand why, he felt this situation was under control. Boom. Suddenly, a fiery explosion erupted outside, and everyone regained their mobility. "Naruto-shuke, didn't expect to meet me, did you?" "Ha ha ha." Kyosuke peeked out the window and saw a large group of Uchiha members arriving. Chapter 4. Returning to the Uchiha clan's territory 3 days later, the group successfully returned to the Southern Army's base. During the ambush battle, the Uchiha managed to catch the enemy completely off guard. Unfortunately, they failed to capture Naruto-shuke, leaving a small but notable regret. Back at the camp, Hikoyachi Uchiha prepared 2 reports. The first was to report the mission's outcome to the Legion commander, Rei Uchiha. The second was to inform the clan leader about Kyosuke's situation. There was no other choice. Activating the Sharingan at the age of 7 was simply too rare. Throughout the generations of Uchiha's legacy, no one had ever been known to possess such talent. What the clan leader would decide was beyond Hikoyachi's concern. Time passed quickly, and a week later, Kyosuke had recovered from his injuries and began a structured training regimen. Ninjutsu, secret techniques, and even Kekkei Genkai could be exchanged for points, and even the abilities he had mastered could be enhanced by spending points. However, this didn't mean Kyosuke could skip training. For example, leveling up swordsmanship to level 2 required 100 points. Through personal training, the points required would gradually decrease, showing that individual effort was not useless. Currently, he lacked the strength to quickly earn points, meaning he had to work hard to build up his power. Unbeknownst to him, someone was quietly observing all of this. That day, as soon as Kyosuke woke up, he was summoned by the Legion commander. "It's finally happening," he murmured, nodding as he followed the clan member to Rei Uchiha's tent. The camp housed a remarkably talented man. If the other party made no move, he wouldn't even qualify to compete with Tajima for the position of clan leader. Along the way, clan members greeted young Kyosuke warmly. This was a stark contrast to how he had been treated before. The news of his Sharingan awakening had clearly spread. They didn't try to keep it a secret? Kyosuke thought, his expression calm despite the flicker in his gaze. Soon, he reached the tent with the others. After expressing his thanks briefly, Kyosuke didn't enter immediately. Instead, he waited quietly outside. Rei Uchiha, as a clan leader level powerhouse, would sense any movement within 100 meters, so he was surely aware of Kyosuke's arrival. Waiting was Kyosuke's way of showing respect to the Legion commander and signaling to everyone that Kyosuke Uchiha was a boy who understood etiquette. Being well-mannered suggested he wouldn't act recklessly. An important trait that leaders often valued. After about 10 minutes, a voice called from inside the tent. "Come in." Lifting the curtain, Kyosuke stepped inside. Behind a broad desk sat a middle-aged man, around 40 years old, who was engrossed in writing. This was Rei Uchiha, the Southern Legion's supreme leader and one of the clan's most influential elders. "You've arrived." Closing his letter, Rei Uchiha looked up at the boy, his gaze tinged with curiosity. "I've heard people talking about you often these past few days." Kyosuke didn't respond. The best way to interact with those in power was to listen more and speak less. Awakening your bloodline at 7 is truly extraordinary. I'm thrilled to have such a gifted youth in my camp. I am willing to serve you, sir. Kyosuke replied tactfully. The saying goes, better to serve the local leader than the distant county magistrate. Since he was now working under the Southern Legion, Rei Uchiha's importance was undeniable. Haha. Pleased by Kyosuke's attitude, the commander laughed heartily before continuing. Unfortunately, you will have to leave for a while. With such exceptional talent, the clan will undoubtedly provide you with meticulous training. At this, the commander paused, his smile turning slightly sly. Of course, staying behind the front lines doesn't guarantee safety. Our clan leader, Rei Uchiha hinted, isn't exactly broad-minded. Throwing a sealed letter to Kyosuke, he gestured. The escort team is waiting. Remember to deliver this letter to the clan leader. Yes, sir. I will take my leave. Kyosuke replied, bowing respectfully before exiting the tent. Soon after, someone approached him with orders from the clan leader, instructing him to return to the clan territory immediately. Glancing at the package in the person's hands, Kyosuke nodded and promptly joined the escort team leaving the Southern Legion. During the journey, he reflected on the conversation in the tent. Judging by his words, the conflict between the commander and Tajima runs deep. Perhaps those remarks were also a test. If Kyosuke sided with Tajima Uchiha, news of the clan leader's supposed narrow-mindedness would certainly reach him. Conversely, Rei Uchiha would only trust him if he chose not to betray the commander. In the event of trouble, the Southern Legion could serve as Kyosuke's fallback. A bunch of sly old foxes. After about a week of travel, The group finally reached the Uchiha territory. The outskirts were inhabited by numerous commoners, while the inner regions housed the true Uchiha clan. For a clan to thrive, it required a large civilian population. Basic labor, such as farming and raising livestock, relied heavily on commoners. After all, you couldn't expect Uchiha clan members to grab hoes and start plowing fields. Another crucial aspect was producing offspring. To preserve pure bloodlines, large clans often arranged intermarriages within the family, though not everyone followed this practice. After all, centuries of strict inbreeding would lead to close relatives marrying. Direct family members generally married outsiders to maintain a healthy flow of bloodlines within the clan. In Kyosuke's view, there was nothing wrong with this. The Indra bloodline was so potent that no amount of external mixing could dilute it. Instead of obsessing over bloodlines, it was better to have more children and expand the clan's population. The clan leader cares about you. The escort leader said, noticing Kyosuke's distracted expression. Everyone will be thrilled to see you return safely. This man was a loyal follower of Tajima Uchiha, and throughout the journey, he tried to indoctrinate Kyosuke with various ideas. Simply put, he stressed that advancing within the clan required loyalty to the clan leader. No matter how talented, disloyalty would reduce him to an ordinary member. Unfortunately, his persuasive skills were lacking and far from enough to sway Kyosuke. If Naruto were here, I might have actually been convinced. From what he had seen and heard since arriving in this world, combined with his knowledge of Tajima Uchiha from his previous life, Kyosuke viewed the clan leader as a stubborn and foolish figure. Even before meeting him, Kyosuke's impression of Tajima was already below passing. Rei Uchiha's willingness to let Kyosuke leave so easily was likely because he had long seen through Tajima's character and knew Kyosuke wouldn't stay in the clan forever. Sooner or later, Kyosuke would return to the Southern Legion. Having such a terrible reputation is truly impressive, Kyosuke thought as he arrived at the clan leader's residence. Finally, he came face to face with Tajima Uchiha. And standing beside him was a spiky-haired boy. Madara Uchiha. Chapter 5. Young clan leader Madara Uchiha. Kyosuke's gaze fixed on Madara Uchiha, leaving him unable to regain his composure for a long time. Memory was one thing, but seeing a familiar anime character in person stirred entirely different emotions. Who would have thought that the Dance King looked so handsome as a kid? Snapping out of his thoughts, Kyosuke bowed slightly toward the clan leader, Tajima, fully embodying his silent and introverted demeanor. To this, Tajima not only showed no displeasure but seemed very satisfied with Kyosuke's behavior. An introverted personality was great. Being taciturn meant that the boy could, at most, serve as an excellent tool. It was just a pity Tajima had forgotten that his eldest son, on whom he placed great hopes, wasn't exactly eloquent either. Come, sit down. You've had a hard journey, Tajima said, his old face plastered with a hypocritical smile. Even Madara standing to the side felt uncomfortable just watching it. If it weren't for the opportunity to meet this rising genius, Madara wouldn't have willingly approached his father. Madara thoroughly disapproved of both his father's methods and his way of dealing with people. In his view, the factional divisions within the clan were primarily his father's responsibility. If he were in charge, he would surely suppress all opposition, uniting the clan's strength to resist the Senju. Sigh. Madara sighed softly in his heart before stepping forward and asking in a cold tone. Kyosuke, was it? How is your Sharingan's proficiency? To answer the young clan leader. Just call me Madara. At this, Tajima interjected insincerely. That's right. You're all brothers. There's no need to be so formal. Brother, huh? Funny how you didn't say that when you sent me to the front lines, Kyosuke sneered inwardly. He rolled his eyes at Tajima, silently thinking how peculiar this clan leader was. No wonder even his two sons didn't think highly of him. If not for his terrifying strength, he'd likely have been eliminated 100 times over by now. My chakra isn't sufficient. I can't maintain the Sharingan for extended periods, Kyosuke replied, quickly gathering chakra. His pitch-black eyes underwent an immediate transformation. Seeing Kyosuke's performance, Tajima Uchiha uncharacteristically fell silent. Disregarding other factors, just this display was enough to convince Tajima to invest heavily in this boy. After a few hollow compliments, Tajima let Kyosuke go home to rest. Settle in and rest well for a few days. I'll arrange for an excellent teacher for you. Tajima said. Thank you for your generosity, clan leader. Madara, he's about the same age as Izuna. Treat him as you would a younger brother. I understand. Understanding the situation, Kyosuke politely excused himself. Staying any longer would have tested his patience with Tajima's acting. To Kyosuke's surprise, Madara soon followed him after a while. Kyosuke, since you don't have any close family in the clan, I'll gather a few people tonight to celebrate your return. Seeing Kyosuke about to decline, Madara scratched his head awkwardly and added in a low voice. It's father's arrangement. Then thank you, Madara. Kyosuke's lips twitched, barely stopping himself from blurting out Madara's infamous nickname. Dance King. The two young men exchanged smiles, easing the awkwardness between them. Kyosuke was a child prodigy, stepping onto the battlefield at the age of 7, earning Madara's respect. With just a 2-year age difference, they were practically peers. Madara's earlier comment about Kyosuke having no close family resonated with his own reality. He, too, lacked true friends. Most of those around him were drawn by his father's status as clan leader. Most were nothing more than opportunists. With his prideful personality, Madara naturally couldn't see them as equals. But Kyosuke was different. Even though he seemed humble, Madara could sense one thing clearly. They were kindred spirits. Today wasn't a waste. Madara said, striding off in good spirits. I wonder where Izuna's run off to. I'll bring him along tonight. As the young clan leader left, Kyosuke turned and headed toward his childhood home. When Kyosuke was 5, his parents died during a mission. He survived thanks to the clan's assistance. Once he began ninja training, his exceptional throwing skills quickly caught attention. This led to his conscription into the Southern Corps as a backup fighter. AKA, the Warring States version of a suicide squad. Someone's cleaned up. Entering his room, Kyosuke quietly observed that even the bedding smelled fresh and fragrant. No doubt another of Tajima's ploys to win him over. After organizing his belongings, night soon fell. True to his word, Madara Uchiha arrived, bringing someone else along. His younger brother, Izuna Uchiha. As they stepped inside, Madara couldn't help but frown slightly. Despite Kyosuke's efforts to tidy up, the living conditions were far too poor. To put it bluntly, even Naruto's shabby apartment seemed better than this. Madara wasn't one to care about comfort, yet he still felt this environment was unworthy of his newfound friend. Hey! Izuna, a bratty kid, started shouting. You're Kyosuke, right? My brother says you're amazing. I don't see it. As a devoted brother, Izuna refused to acknowledge anyone being better than Madara. Recently, rumors about Kyosuke had spread throughout the clan, piquing Izuna's curiosity. He's only a year older than me. What's the big deal? Izuna thought. Seeing the little brat barely reaching his shoulders, Kyosuke paused for a moment before outright ignoring him. Let's go. I'm starving. Alright. Madara nodded. Do you want to move to a better place? I know some good spots. No need. As long as it's livable. Kyosuke shook his head, not wanting to draw too much attention. The better places Madara mentioned were undoubtedly luxurious mansions, but Kyosuke felt no need for such extravagance. The backyard provided ample space for training, which was all he needed. As the two walked side by side, Izuna pouted and yelled in frustration. Hey, don't ignore me. Stop fussing. Let's eat. Madara's words instantly silenced his younger brother. Witnessing this scene, Kyosuke couldn't help but reflect. Uchiha truly was a clan full of sibling obsessions. Thankfully, Kyosuke didn't have similar relationships to worry about, or he'd constantly fear someone coveting his Sharingan. Lost in thought, he suddenly heard Madara speak. By the way, Kai-jun has also returned to the clan. You two haven't seen each other in years, have you? Kai-jun? Hearing the name, Kyosuke froze, taking a moment to recall the person. Kai-jun Uchiha, his older cousin by 4 years, was indeed a close relative. The reason he'd forgotten involved some complex circumstances. Recalling an earlier thought, Kyosuke couldn't help but smile faintly, murmuring. Yes, it's been years. Chapter 6, Guidance from the Ghost Father. Outside the Uchiha clan compound, in a barbecue restaurant run by ordinary people. Cheers. The group shouted their slogan loudly, but the drinks in their cups were all non-alcoholic. As the young heir of the Uchiha clan and a future leader destined to command the clan, even though Madara was reluctant at heart, he sometimes had to play the part, such as treating others to a meal. Before Izuna's death, Madara could still be considered an ambitious and idealistic young man. Aside from being a bit overbearing, his virtues were comparable to Hashirame's. Glancing at the bored dancing king and the meat-grabbing Izuna, Kyosuke shook his head, feeling a strange sense of witnessing history unfold. Hey, Kyosuke. A cup suddenly extended toward him. Looking up, he saw a boy who looked about 70% like him smiling warmly. It was none other than his cousin, Kai-jun Uchiha. Let's have a drink. Kai-jun's enthusiasm made it impossible for outsiders to sense the actual relationship between them. It's been years, and I didn't expect you to become such a prominent figure in the clan. If your father could see your accomplishments, he would be very proud. Kyosuke's evaluation was succinct. Hypocrite. Did this guy really think Kyosuke was too young to remember their family's treatment? After his parents died in battle, the clan had him live with his uncle. But his uncle's family shut the door on him. That's why Kyosuke joined the Southern Corps at 7 years old. The war wasn't so urgent then, children with any family background were undergoing systematic training within the clan. Only orphans like Kyosuke were sent as cannon fodder. The mission to intercept members of 3 enemy clans hadn't been designed for their survival. In hindsight, the accidental exposure of his Sharingan turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Indeed, seeing how I've turned out, father must be very proud, Kyosuke replied sarcastically before downing his juice in one gulp. The others, oblivious to the undercurrents, kept praising the brothers as outstanding ninjas of the Uchiha clan. Recently, Keiichun Uchiha had been promoted to Chunin. While not a prodigy, his talent was respectable enough to earn the rank. In comparison, Kyosuke noticed that even someone like Kiba in later generations had far surpassed the ordinary Chunin level, let alone Rock Lee or Gaara, who could overpower the average Jonin. By those standards, Keiichun's promotion wasn't that extraordinary. However, his familial connection to Kyosuke was likely his only ticket to sitting among the group. Amid the merry atmosphere, only Madara noticed Kyosuke's subtle changes in expression. After glancing at Keiichun, Madara inwardly cursed his father, Tajima, for orchestrating such a thoughtless gesture. Instead of fostering goodwill, this only added to Kyosuke's frustration. Patting Kyosuke on the shoulder, Madara found an excuse to end the banquet early. Kyosuke, seemingly understanding, smiled and shook his head before heading home alone. For Kyosuke, Keiichun wasn't worth much thought. What mattered was the teacher he was meeting the next day. By now, his spiritual power was still growing rapidly. Even though his physical development was limited, his burgeoning spiritual strength allowed his chakra reserves to steadily increase. Chakra level, Geinin. Currently, Kyosuke has about the same chakra level as an average Geinin. While insufficient for prolonged combat, it was adequate for basic battles. Kyosuke decided to emulate Kakashi's rise to power. Kakashi graduated at 5, became a Chunin at 6, and was promoted to Jonin at 12, despite his infamous chakra limitations. Kakashi's rapid progression was largely due to his family's mastery of sword art. For now, Kyosuke resolved to focus on Uchiha-style sword art to quickly improve his strength. Once his progress slowed, he planned to develop his ninjutsu and ganjutsu, leveraging his evolving Sharingan to ensure his rise to the rank of elite Jonin. With enough points accumulated, he could force a Mangekyo Sharingan exchange and step into the domain of clan leaders. Dreaming of a promising future, Kyosuke soon fell asleep. The next day, Kyosuke got up early and went to Tajima's residence. This time, he didn't meet the clan head. Instead, a guard led him to a side room, where a clan Jonin awaited him. The man introduced himself bluntly, "I am Keisuke Uchiha, and I will be your instructor for the next year." "Uchiha Ghost Father?" Blinking away the distracting thought, Kyosuke bowed respectfully. "Teacher Keisuke." Nodding slightly, the Jonin asked, "What would you like to focus on? Ninjutsu or Ganjutsu? I will teach you about using your eyes over time, so don't rush it." "I want to learn sword art," Kyosuke replied confidently. Keisuke frowned slightly but didn't reject the idea outright. Although the boy's body was frail, the Sharingan support made sword art an appropriate path for him at this stage. What a determined child, Keisuke thought before saying, "Wait here for a moment. I'll be back shortly." With that, he vanished, leaving Kyosuke unable to trace his movements without his Sharingan activated. "The difference in strength is greater than I expected," Kyosuke admitted. After about 10 minutes, Keisuke returned with a short blade suited for Kyosuke. The blade resembled the White Fang Tando but was slightly longer. Taking the weapon, Kyosuke immediately felt its weight. Likely over 30 pounds, far beyond what an average 7-year-old could wield without chakra. Swinging the blade horizontally, a sharp wind noise filled the air. For the first time, Kyosuke smiled earnestly. "Thank you, Teacher Keisuke." Keisuke frowned briefly, sensing a slight oddity in the boy's tone, but dismissed it. Swinging his own short blade casually, he unleashed a wave of oppressive killing intent that engulfed the courtyard. "From now on, be here every morning at 6. "Yes." Thus, Kyosuke began his relentless training. Training and growth. Kyosuke's focus wasn't just on accumulating points but also on refining his skills through relentless practice and real combat. Even slow progress would eventually accumulate into something significant. Before long, a year had passed in the blink of an eye. Chapter 7, The Evil Era of the Uchiha Clan. In the Uchiha Clan's territory, at the secluded mountain training ground, Kyosuke stood, holding a short blade, his eyes fixed on the tree trunk ahead. 1 breath. 2 breaths. 3 breaths. Suddenly, his chakra surged violently, shaking the leaves, which then fell gracefully like scattered flowers. With a seemingly slow but swift motion, he raised his arm, his muscles tensed, and the short blade burst into a dazzling light. When the wind subsided, the fallen leaves before him were all sliced cleanly in half. After a year of intense training, Kyosuke's actual combat abilities had finally reached the level of a Chunin. Of course, without the enhancement of the Sharingan, he might not have been able to cut even a third of the leaves. It must be said, lineage indeed gives a significant boost to a ninja's strength. Name: Kyosuke Uchiha. Age: 8. Physical strength, gain in mental strength, Chunin Chakra Reserve, Chunin mastered abilities, Uchiha Sword Art, Level 4, the 3 basic jutsu, Level 4, throwing techniques, Level 5, Chakra Control, Level 2, hand seals, Level 3, KK Genkai, Sharingan, 1 Tomoe, Summoning Beast, non-ninja tools, non-points, 5,840. 2 weeks after starting his training, his soul fusion was finally complete, and his mental strength stabilized at the Chunin level. As he grows older, it is expected to improve further. If he specializes in Ganjutsu and refines his Yin Chakra, both his speed and potential will significantly increase. As for physical strength, practicing sword art naturally involves physical exercise, but due to age constraints, it hasn't improved quickly. Gain in level strength is currently Kyosuke's limit. His chakra reserves have also seen significant growth, naturally improving with the enhancement of his body and mind. Although not comparable to the Senjus, the Uchihas, as descendants of the Otsutsuki clan, possess far more chakra than most other noble families. His Sharingan remains at 1 Tomoe, showing little improvement. However, the real progress lies in his focused training in Uchiha sword art. At level 4, his sword art rivals that of elite samurai from the Land of Iron. With the Sharingan's support, Kyosuke's swordsmanship can unleash the power of level 5 effortlessly. Overall, in close combat, his abilities are slightly superior to an average Chunin. However, in ranged combat, due to chakra limitations, Kyosuke has chosen to forego ninjutsu training, focusing instead on honing his throwing techniques. Chunin-level ninjas, excluding prodigies like the Hidden Leaf Village 12, typically max out with C-rank ninjutsu, such as the Fireball Jutsu. While useful, Kyosuke finds it more practical to devote all his chakra to physical combat. After numerous real battles, he realized that close-quarters combat was the most effective fighting method. Kyosuke embarked on missions almost every 3 days over the past year. His teachers shadowed him discreetly, intervening only when Kyosuke faced life-threatening danger. Initially, Kyosuke struggled to adapt, but after several missions, he grew accustomed to working alone. Through dozens of assassination missions, Kyosuke has eliminated nearly 100 gain-in-level enemies. Rumors spread across the ninja world about a bloodthirsty Uchiha child who flees from powerful opponents but relentlessly hunts down gain-in-level enemies. This earned him the nickname the Evil Ujira of the Uchiha. As for its origin, firstly because none of the gain-in-level enemies Kyosuke encountered ever escaped alive. Secondly, during missions, Kyosuke wears a ghost face mask. Initially, it helped hide his fear, but over time, he became accustomed to it. The mask also protects his face from blood splatter. It can be said that it has many wonderful uses. Through his relentless combat, Kyosuke gained not only battle experience but also nearly 6,000 points. While not enough for expensive items, it's sufficient to upgrade a specific skill by 2 levels or exchange for a beginner-level B-rank ninjutsu. Currently, Kyosuke's strength is entirely centered on close combat. With a Sharingan, he can clearly observe enemy movements, and his swordsmanship makes him nearly invincible in melee battles. The only issue is how to close the distance with his enemies. Kyosuke decided to focus on a type of ninjutsu, teleportation jutsu. Teleportation jutsu refers to any technique enabling high-speed movement. Common examples include chakra bursts to enhance physical speed. Characters like Might Guy, Sasuke, and most Jonin employ this method. There are also elemental techniques, using various chakra natures as mediums for high-speed movement. Examples include Gaara, Haku, and Deodara, utilizing sand flicker, water flicker, and clay flicker, respectively. The most complex forms involve space-time ninjutsu, such as those mastered by Minato and the second Hokage, where space is warped to achieve instantaneous movement. These are the strongest and most mysterious teleportation jutsus. If possible, Kyosuke would love to acquire a space-time ability, as it is invaluable for both survival and mobility. Unfortunately, such techniques are extremely rare. The cheapest one, Flying Thunder God, costs a whopping 25,000 points. For now, the Chakra Burst variant of teleportation jutsu is his most practical option. Though limited by his physical strength, even occasional use would significantly expand his combat range. After a year of experiments, Kyosuke roughly understood how the points system works. Gain-in-level enemies, rewards range from 20 to 100 points, depending on their skill level. Chunin-level enemies, rewards increase dramatically, ranging from 100 to 500 points. Even defeating the weakest Chunin yields more points than eliminating several Gainin. By enhancing his strength, Kyosuke aims to start hunting Chunin level enemies, which would accelerate his point accumulation. However, without investing in his strength early on, he might not survive long enough to reap the benefits. With his teacher no longer overseeing him, any mistake could turn the evil Azura into a wandering ghost. Determined to strengthen himself, Kyosuke decided to spend his points. Gazing at the list of available teleportation jutsus, Kyosuke had a thought: if I practice the basics in advance, could it reduce the requirements for exchange? Even if it saves just a few points, every bit counts. With this in mind, Kyosuke hurried home and flipped through his teacher's ninjutsu manual. Found it. Immersed in his training, Kyosuke mastered the basic chakra burst technique within a single afternoon. Chapter 8, Redemption, Shizue-style teleportation jutsu, Level 1. Looking at the information displayed on the system panel, Kyosuke couldn't help but smile despite the soreness all over his body. The explosive teleportation jutsu isn't difficult to learn, but the physical pain of the tearing sensation it brings makes it hard for most to endure. Kyosuke had gritted his teeth and persevered to gradually grasp the basics of the technique. Of course, while he had technically learned it, he was still far from being able to use it effectively in combat. If the force was too strong, he might directly crash into an opponent's blade. If it was too weak, the subsequent stiffness in his body would be as good as a death sentence. This is why the teleportation jutsu is primarily popular among Jonin level ninjas. The key lies in one word: control. Control involves not only chakra manipulation but also mastering the technique itself. Kyosuke's experiment was aimed at saving points by using them to exchange for the techniques of famous ninjas in the world of shinobi. Excluding rare space-time ninjutsu and forbidden techniques like those of Might Guy, who was an exception, which ninja was known throughout the shinobi world for their mastery of the teleportation jutsu. The first name that came to Kyosuke's mind was his clan's genius, Shizue Uchiha. The title Shizue of the Body Flicker was legendary during the Third Shinobi World War. While Shizue was renowned for his Ganjutsu, his teleportation jutsu was just as impressive. Considering the similarities in skill sets, Kyosuke didn't hesitate to exchange for Shizue's style of teleportation jutsu. Initially, the Shizue-style teleportation jutsu cost 8,000 points to exchange. But after Kyosuke mastered the basic teleportation jutsu, the price dropped to 4,000 points. A 50% discount. It seems my theory was correct. Mastering basic abilities does reduce the cost of exchanges. Kyosuke mused. This system is actually quite user-friendly. After selecting the confirmation button, a torrent of knowledge surged into his mind. It was a long time before Kyosuke snapped back to reality from this trance-like state. Shizue-style teleportation jutsu, Level 1. Opening the list, Kyosuke noticed the name of the technique had changed. As he carefully analyzed the modifications to the technique, he couldn't help but marvel. Shizue's reputation wasn't just due to luck. Even if he had been born in the Warring States era, he would still have been a renowned warrior. Knock, knock, knock. Before Kyosuke could head out to test the technique, an urgent knock came from the door. As he got up to answer, his expression suddenly changed. He had already drawn his short blade. Clang. Deflecting the kunai that shot toward him, Kyosuke remained calm and stepped forward. His chakra surged, and his short blade slashed swiftly toward the wooden door. Whoa, hey. A familiar voice caused Kyosuke to instinctively lessen his strength. Even so, the door splintered, revealing a panicked Izuna outside. You idiot. Kyosuke's heart leapt to his throat, fully aware of the dire consequences of accidentally killing Izuna. At the critical moment, a blade intercepted his attack from the side with a sharp clang. Kyosuke froze for a few seconds before exhaling deeply. He stepped forward and flicked Izuna on the forehead. Damn it, Kyosuke Uchiha. You're such a bully. Izuna cried out indignantly, flailing his arms. Normally, Izuna didn't dare provoke Kyosuke too much. Even he knew better after being beaten up repeatedly. Today, however, he was unusually brazen because his greatest backer had returned. Ignoring the little troublemaker's tantrum, Kyosuke turned his attention to the owner of the blade. You're finally back, Madara. The person who had deflected his attack was none other than Madara Uchiha, who had just returned from the battlefield. 6 months ago, Madara had reached the level of an elite Chunin. Even Tajima, his father, couldn't stop him from going to war. It only took him a half a year to make the Senju clan remember the name Madara Uchiha. Now that the fighting had subsided, Madara finally had the chance to return to the clan grounds. Looking at the increasingly formidable young man before him, Kyosuke knew that Madara's strength had grown even more terrifying. Come on in. Later that night, at the barbecue restaurant, Kyosuke, Izuna, and Madara sat across from each other, secretly ordering some sake. Who cared about rules against minors drinking? One was a battlefield demon, the other was a evil face Azura. Drinking fruit juice together would only make their enemies laugh. As for Izuna, well, he was the exception. Under Madara's stern gaze, Izuna could only pout and repeatedly toast the others with his glass of juice. Kids will be kids, Kyosuke quipped sarcastically. Izuna could only silently endure. In the Uchiha clan, only 3 people could control him: his father, Tajima Uchiha, whose authority he didn't dare defy; his elder brother, Madara Uchiha, whom he deeply respected and was unwilling to disappoint; his friend and rival, Kyosuke Uchiha, the only one who truly dared to beat him. The worst part? Both his father and brother approved of Kyosuke's methods, believing it helped Izuna grow stronger. Ridiculous. Izuna thought bitterly, downing his juice in one gulp. Refill. Meanwhile, Kyosuke and Madara exchanged insights from their time on the battlefield. Madara, with his noble status, often commanded operations, offering strategic perspectives Kyosuke found valuable. Kyosuke, in turn, shared his experiences from high-risk missions behind enemy lines, which Madara sought to learn from. PFFT, what's so impressive? Izuna muttered sourly from the side. Unfortunately, Tajima had forbidden him from joining the battlefield. If you can defeat Kyosuke, I'll allow it, his father had said. Izuna had tried countless times but could never overcome Kyosuke's short blade. If Madara hadn't been present today, he knew he'd either be dead or gravely injured. Damn it, why is the gap only growing? As Kyosuke turned to focus on the food, Izuna sneakily stole pieces of meat from the grill. By the time Kyosuke realized it, his grill was empty. Burp. Izuna covered his stomach smugly, his expression full of defiance. Careful, or you'll burst, Kyosuke muttered, rolling his eyes as he ordered more meat. In the end, all 3 of them were still growing, and ninja appetites were naturally large. Izuna's eyes darted mischievously as he suddenly asked. You 2 haven't seen each other in a while. So, who's stronger now? The question brought an instant silence to the table. Chapter 9, Kyosuke vs Madara Uchiha. Hey, hurry up. Something big is happening at the training grounds. What is it? Are we under attack? Idiot, it's the young clan leader having a duel with Kyosuke. Both of them are famous geniuses, and today they're finally going head-to-head. What? Wait for me, I want to watch too. At the training grounds, Kyosuke felt a headache coming on. Damn Izuna. He glanced at the smug little brat, knowing full well that all this commotion was his doing. The reason was obvious: Izuna wanted his brother to defeat Kyosuke in front of everyone. Over the past year, people had constantly debated who the top genius of the younger generation in the clan was. Some believed the young clan leader's impressive battle record spoke for itself. Others argued that Kyosuke, who awakened his Sharingan at the age of 7, was the strongest. Kyosuke had planned to train quietly for a while, but Izuna had dragged him into this mess. Kyosuke. Suddenly, a voice called out from the side. He turned to see his opportunistic cousin walking toward him angrily. What are you doing? Kei-jun Uchiha stormed over and questioned him. The young clan leader's status is extraordinary. How could you openly challenge him like this? Kei-jun leaned closer and whispered. If you win, how will the young clan leader save face? And what would the clan leader think of you? Although Kei-jun appeared concerned, he was really worried that Kyosuke would anger the clan leader and drag him down with him. Kei-jun wanted Kyosuke to forfeit the match, but Kyosuke simply glanced at him before turning to face the approaching Uchiha brothers. This infuriated Kei-jun. You brat. Is this how you treat your cousin when I'm talking to you? Shut up, Kyosuke said coldly, his eyes narrowing. Get lost. Don't get in my way. You little punk. Have you lost your mind? Kei-jun snarled as he pulled out a kunai, determined to teach Kyosuke a lesson. Kei-jun thought Kyosuke was still the helpless kid he once was, despite the praise he had been receiving lately. But Kei-jun underestimated the power of the Sharingan. Kyosuke easily deflected Kei-jun's attack, twisting his body to get behind him. In one swift move, Kyosuke pressed a short blade to K's neck. If this weren't inside the clan, I'd kill you right now. With that, Kyosuke kneed Kei-jun in the lower back, sending him crashing to the ground. In truth, Kei-jun wasn't weak. His skills as a chunin were decent, but he had no chance against someone with a Sharingan in close combat. After kicking Kei-jun aside, Kyosuke turned to Madara, who was approaching. Smiling faintly, he said. I didn't expect our first battle to happen like this. Shall we clear the area? Madara asked, frowning slightly as he shot a disapproving look at his younger brother. Izuna shrank under Madara's glare and quickly ran off. No need, Kyosuke replied, gripping his short blade tightly. What's coming will come eventually. Besides, I'm tired of staying in the clan. Very well. Let's have an all-out fight today, Madara said. That's exactly what I want. Without any unnecessary rituals, both assumed their stances and the fight began. In terms of physical strength and chakra, The 10-year-old Madara had a clear advantage. Kyosuke knew he couldn't fight head-on and had to watch out for Madara's ninjutsu. If he wanted to win, Kyosuke had to rely on his Sharingan and the recently learned Shizue-style teleportation jutsu. His scarlet eyes glowed as his Sharingan activated, capturing every move Madara made. Reaching into his ninja pouch, Kyosuke flicked 3 shuriken into the air with a flick of his wrist. Madara didn't even pause. With his long blade, he created an impenetrable defense, easily deflecting the shuriken. The distance between them rapidly closed. Nice! The spectators cheered. With that display of sword art, Madara had already demonstrated skills surpassing Kyosuke. Still the same as always, Kyosuke, Madara said suddenly as he tossed his long blade into the air and quickly performed a series of hand seals. As fire gathered in his mouth, the temperature around them rose dramatically. Fire style, majestic flame annihilation. What the hell? Is he trying to kill me? Kyosuke thought as the image of Madara annihilating dozens of mist ninjas in the Great Ninja War flashed in his mind. But he quickly reminded himself that Madara's current strength wasn't at Jonin level yet and couldn't produce such a devastating fire style. Still, Kyosuke didn't dare underestimate him. Just as the fan-shaped blaze approached, Kyosuke finished his own hand seals and transformed into a blurred afterimage, dashing straight toward Madara. Teleportation jutsu? Madara was taken aback. He hadn't expected Kyosuke to use such a technique. Doesn't he know that forcing this technique can cause irreparable damage to his body? Why did Keisuke teach him the teleportation jutsu now? Madara silently cursed his clansmen while preparing to defend. When he turned, Kyosuke was already lying on the ground nearby, grimacing as he stood up. Half of it was from misjudging his landing, and the other half was from being singed by the flames. Did Keisuke teach you the teleportation jutsu? Madara asked, frowning. If Kyosuke confirmed it, Madara would certainly confront Keisuke. But Kyosuke shook his head, running his hand through his slightly charred hair. I taught myself. Damn it, my hair. Both Kyosuke and Madara shared the Uchiha family's spiky hairstyle, and Kyosuke had hoped to grow his longer to stand out from the brothers. You taught yourself? Madara fell silent, glancing at Kyosuke's hair, which was now almost shoulder length. You should cut your hair. Shut up. I'm growing it out. It'll get in the way during battles. Ha. I'll develop a hair-based ninjutsu, and then you'll see. After some bickering, the two went their separate ways. Overall, Madara's performance stood out more. Kyosuke's teleportation jutsu was fast, but his control was lacking. A fact obvious to all the experienced ninjas present. Still, the 2-year age gap made it hard to determine who was truly more talented. For Tajima Uchiha, however, the answer was clear. His son, Madara, was destined to lead the clan. As for Kyosuke Uchiha, it was time to make plans for him. Chapter 10, Conspiracy. The killing intent approaching the clan 3 days after the duel, news suddenly came from the front line that the Senju clan was assembling a large portion of their forces. According to reports, a figure resembling Senju Batsuma was seen on the main battlefield. Upon confirming the news, Tajima Uchiha immediately made a decision to risk going to the battlefield himself. Of course, he wouldn't go alone. Sensing that a decisive battle was near, Tajima mobilized most of the remaining forces within the clan. During the Sengoku era, the prosperity of each clan was far greater than that of the villages in later times. Take the Uchiha clan, for example. They had established 4 major legions, each responsible for dealing with enemies from different directions. Within the clan, the number of resident ninjas alone exceeded 800, and each legion had over 1,000 ninjas. Kyosuke roughly calculated that the entire clan's ninja count was at least over 5,000. While this couldn't match the terrifying scale of the ninja villages of the future, which could deploy tens of thousands of ninjas for war, it was enough to wipe out a small nation. However, the problem wasn't just the Senju clan. News came from the Southern Legion that the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimaki clans were rapidly gathering their forces, preparing for an all-out war with the Uchiha. The Legion commander, Rei Uchiha, sent a request for reinforcements, but Tajima completely ignored it. We don't have anyone to spare. If we can't defend, we'll at least drag them down with us. When Rei received the response, he angrily tore up the letter in front of everyone and called Tajima a fool with a pig's brain. These pieces of information were kept highly secret, and Kyosuke only learned of them through Azuna's casual chatter. Looking at the empty street, he couldn't help but sigh. After 3 days of effort, Kyosuke had mostly mastered the use of the teleportation jutsu. The price, however, was that his entire body ached, and large bruises began to form on certain parts of his body. During this time, Madara Uchiha had sternly warned him that forcibly using the teleportation jutsu before his body was strong enough was akin to slowly committing suicide. In other words, Madara was trying to persuade him to give up on practicing it. But Kyosuke retorted with one line, in the battlefield, It's either you or me. If I can't use it in a critical moment, I might not even live long enough for a slow death. Faced with Kyosuke's sharp tongue, Madara, who wasn't good with words, had no way to respond. In a fit of frustration, he hadn't appeared before Kyosuke for the past 3 days. Such a child. He commented. Tajima didn't want to deal with the southern battlefield, but Rei Uchiha was no ordinary person. He was once a fierce rival in the battle for the clan leadership. When the second letter arrived, not long after, news came that the stationed legion had secretly moved out. Upon learning of this, Tajima was furious and openly cursed. The problem was, there was little Rei could do to him, and on the other hand, Tajima couldn't deal with the old man with the graying hair. The large-scale participation of the legions caused the clan's defensive power to become increasingly weak. If enemies attack now, the history of the ninja world might be rewritten. What had originally been a joke began to make Tajima uneasy as he thought more about it. A year ago, a team had successfully infiltrated the enemy's rear and ambushed the fleeing heirs of the 3 clans. This was considered a highly successful extermination operation. If the enemy didn't harbor hatred, it would be hard for anyone to believe. Moreover, the decisive battle between the Uchiha and Senju clans wasn't supposed to happen at this time. Madara Uchiha was about to turn 11, and his encounter with Senju Hashirama was not far off. At that time, Madara would likely be on the battlefield, and it seemed the war hadn't yet reached a point where both sides were on the brink of destruction. In other words, a large-scale slaughter between the 2 clans shouldn't happen now. If the Senju are pretending to set a trap, then what is their goal? Kyosuke glanced at the empty street, as if he was beginning to understand. The Senju weren't aiming for a decisive battle, they were trying to lure Tajima Uchiha to the battlefield. The Southern Legion and the 3 clans nearly simultaneously began to act, and although there was no concrete evidence, Kyosuke's intuition told him that there must be some connection between them. Senju's trap. The 3 clans assembly. Senju. Nara assassination. This was bad. Kyosuke's expression turned serious as he stood up, determined to head straight to the clan's mansion. No matter whether it was true or not, preparations had to be made. If it turned out to be true, it would be too late to react once things unfolded. I hope I'm just overthinking it. At the southern entrance of the Uchiha clan's land, a series of carriages were parked by the roadside, being inspected by the guard team. Good work. The head of the convoy was an old acquaintance, having been transporting goods for decades, so the guard team did not make things difficult and decided to let them pass. Wait. Suddenly, the captain of the guards called out to the convoy. There's an order from above to step up the inspection. The captain seemed a bit helpless as he spoke. He couldn't understand what the young patriarch was thinking, mentioning something about enemies potentially infiltrating. Infiltrating the Uchiha clan's territory? No one had ever achieved such a feat in the past 1,000 years. To him, it probably just seemed like a child trying to show off, but unfortunately, it was always the lower-ranked ones like them who suffered. Just as the captain was about to say something, an intense feeling of heart palpitation suddenly surged from deep within. Before he could react, he realized that he had lost control of his body. But they are all old acquaintances. If there's a problem, won't we starve to death? The captain smiled and waved his hand, signaling his subordinates to allow the convoy to pass. No, they have a problem. As he saw his body moving against his will, he was overwhelmed by an urge to end it all. But he was unable to do anything. At that moment, he felt like a mere observer, powerless to control his body. In the end, he could only helplessly watch as the suspicious convoy wobbled its way deeper into the clan. This feeling, it's unmistakable. It's the secret technique of the Yamanaka clan. What do they want to do? The poor captain was personally escorting the convoy deeper, heading westward. Judging by their direction, it was clearly towards the residential area where most of the clan members lived. Since most of the ninjas had gone to the battlefield, only the elderly, women, and children remained in the residential area. Even a fool could understand the invaders' objective. Damn it, move, body, move. The captain screamed desperately, but his resistance against the Yamanaka clan's secret technique seemed as childish and laughable as a child's tantrum. Soon, the convoy reached the heart of the clan. Seeing the children playing joyfully on the streets, his heart seemed to bleed. We're almost there. Suddenly, a low mutter filled with killing intent came from behind. Not far ahead was the Uchiha clan's long-standing kindergarten. If they were going to eliminate their target, the best place to strike would be there. Damn Uchiha, you will pay the price today. Listening to the laughter of the children around, the invaders discarded their disguises and charged into the ancient Uchiha school. But what they found was not their intended target, but a group of vivid clones, and the entire school filled with explosive tags that were now burning fiercely. Boom. Chapter 11, A Big Harvest of 3,200 Points Retreat. Narakinshuk brows furrowed as he never expected that they would still expose their whereabouts. Normally, the secret techniques of the Yamanaka clan are invulnerable, and outsiders wouldn't be able to sense anything unusual. Unless someone could see through their intentions from the overall layout. Impossible, Narakinshuk muttered, unconvinced. After crashing through the fence and retreating into the yard, before he could even look up, kunai began falling from the sky like raindrops. Boring tricks. The elite Jonin of the Nara clan quickly formed hand signs, and his shadow stretched out, forming a ceiling net around them, resembling tendrils. Ninja art, shadow net. Narakinshuk from the rooftop, Kyosuke directly revealed his opponent's identity, Nara clan Jonin. He was in charge of the pursuit earlier. Yeah. Madara Uchiha nodded silently, his presence already locking on to the enemy with an immense killing intent. As the clan's junior leader, he had a responsibility to protect his clan's safety. No matter what today, he couldn't let the enemy succeed. He even had to thank Kyosuke for this. If Kyosuke hadn't rushed in, Madara couldn't imagine how things would have turned out. It's you? Narakinshuk lifted his head, his surprise slowly turning into resentment as he recognized Kyosuke. Without trying to negotiate, both sides knew their objectives, and from the start, it was a fight to the death. The Uchiha's defenses were exceptionally weak, with almost no skilled fighters left. Most of the ninjas present were low-ranking Chunin or Genin, with a few middle-ranked ninjas who needed treatment for injuries. Fortunately, the enemy couldn't bring too much fighting power, and as long as they dealt with the leading Jonin, the crisis could be resolved. Charge! Madara leapt from the rooftop, heading straight for the most formidable-looking Jonin of the Akimaki clan. Fire style, majestic flame annihilation. He immediately unleashed his most powerful fire style technique. Seeing this, the other Uchiha clan members followed Madara into battle. You're all going to die today. Narakinshuk remained still, his hands forming a seal. In an instant, countless shadow lines shot out towards the surrounding enemies. From Kyosuke's perspective, it looked like a strange shadow flower blooming under the man's feet. Ninja art, shadow otherworldly flower. This strike instantly killed 7 Uchiha Genin. We can't let him continue his rampage. Kyosuke's eyes narrowed, his Sharingan flashing with a crimson light as he locked onto the enemy's movements. His hands quickly formed seals, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a streak of light, heading straight for the kneeling Narakinshuk. He's fast. Narakinshuk widened his eyes in surprise. He hadn't expected such a young kid to be so terrifying with his speed technique. Caught off guard, Narakinshuk couldn't change his move in time, and his shadow's speed couldn't catch up with Kyosuke's swift body. Just as he was about to react, a figure suddenly appeared before Narakinshuk. With his own body, he blocked Kyosuke's lethal strike. System notification, killed an Uchiha Chunin, earning 360 points, damn. Looking at the despairing Uchiha clansman before him, Kyosuke quickly deduced that it was a puppet manipulated by the mind-body switch jutsu. What frustrated him even more was that it would now be difficult to find a way to kill the enemy. Prepared, Narakinshuk wouldn't give him another chance for a surprise attack. A prepared Jonin could easily disregard most surprise tactics. Ninja battles often rely on counterattacking, observing the opponent's moves, and exploiting openings. Most ninjas followed this philosophy of combat. Moreover, Kyosuke's body couldn't withstand using the teleportation jutsu a second time. Ah! From afar, a Yamanaka Jonin suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The mind-body switch jutsu was powerful, especially in one-on-one combat, where its lethality was astonishing. However, it had a significant downside. When the user was hit, their own body would be injured as well. The Yamanaka Jonin had jumped into the way without thinking, blocking the blow, but the injury was reflected back to his own body. Not only would he not be able to fight, but if help didn't arrive soon, the Yamanaka Jonin would die. At least it wasn't in vain. Kyosuke gritted his teeth, dodging the incoming attacks from the enemy. Protect Kyosuke. We can't let him die here. During the Warring States period, the Uchiha were a unified clan with strong collective honor. Unlike the Hidden Leaf Village period, where the clan was filled with schemes, many Uchiha rushed forward to block Narakinshuk's shadow thread technique, disregarding the difference in power between them and the enemy. Hold him off. Kyosuke gritted his teeth and turned toward the fallen figure in the distance. The Uchiha Chunin had provided him with 360 points, and he was hoping the Yamanaka Jonin would yield even more points. Kyosuke, desperate for points to replenish his reserves, couldn't allow such a juicy target to slip away. Die. Several shuriken flew out as he followed closely behind, charging toward the Yamanaka Jonin. You little brat, you're courting death. The bloodied Yamanaka Jonin barely managed to turn his body to avoid a fatal strike. As for the other parts of his body, it didn't matter. He was already dead. He only wanted to drag this talented kid down with him. Ninja art, mind-body switch technique. With his final hand sign, the near-death Jonin sneered, his vision blurry. Let's go to hell together. As his consciousness left his body, aiming to enter Kyosuke, he suddenly heard a loud bang. The Kyosuke before him vanished into white smoke. A clone? The Jonin eyes widened in shock. He hadn't expected to be played by a little brat in his last moments. Under normal circumstances, a basic clone technique wouldn't fool a seasoned Jonin. But the Jonin was so badly injured that he couldn't even clearly see the figure of his opponent. Hey, I guess this is the consequence of playing with people's minds. The mind-body switch technique failed. The spirit body would remain outside for a while, and during this time, the young boy had enough time to kill him multiple times. Shing. The blade sliced through the air, leaving a spray of blood. System notification, killed in Yamanaka Jonin, earning 3,200 points, great. Kyosuke grinned, thoroughly satisfied with his harvest for the day. With his unlucky Jonin's death, his points had returned to over 5,000, replenishing the cost for the teleportation jutsu. Your companions are dead. Do you still plan to resist? Kyosuke tried to pressure the enemy. Joke. We never planned to leave alive. Naruto didn't buy it. Just as he was about to turn and deal with Kyosuke, a loud explosion suddenly came from behind. Madara's battle was over. Chapter 12, a life and death battle, awakening one after another dragging his heavily injured body, Dance King, Madara, slowly walked towards the others. His blood-stained clothes and broken left arm clearly indicated the ferocity of the battle he had just fought. However, Madara Uchiha's expression remained proud and unyielding, holding his blade in one hand and pointing it toward the grim-faced Naruto. Behind him, a shinobi from the Akimaki clan had been decapitated. The knife wound on his chest confirmed that he had died in a direct confrontation. How is this possible? Naruto looked bewildered, unable to believe that a 10-year-old boy could kill one of his companions in a single fight. But the cold and intimidating aura around the boy forced him to accept the reality. In the back, Kyosuke wasn't at all surprised. After all, this was Madara Uchiha, the current incarnation of Indra's chakra. With the strength of an elite Chunin, was it really so strange that he could defeat a Jonin in a one-on-one battle? Rather than focusing on the battle itself, Kyosuke was more concerned with the change in Dance King's eyes. That strange gleam in his eyes made everyone who met his gaze feel an intense chill. Madara had finally activated his Sharingan, and it was 5 years earlier than in the original timeline. At that moment, Kyosuke realized that the butterfly effect of his actions had begun to influence the course of events in the shinobi world. Madara activated his eyes early. His strength will undoubtedly surpass what it used to be. I wonder if Hashirama will still be able to suppress him this time. While he was pondering this, Madara Uchiha walked up to him and stood at a right angle to Kyosuke. The two of them stared ahead, their focus firmly locked on Naruto. With the Akimaki clan and the other two clans' members already decimated, the remaining shinobi were no longer a threat. Even if the three clans were determined to kill, they wouldn't send a group of Jonin to die at Uchiha's clan grounds. It was already their limit to send 3 Jonin assassins. These 3 were directly involved in the attack, and if they didn't come, they would have been executed by the furious clansmen. As for the other shinobi, no one would be foolish enough to take on a task with a certain death sentence. You're the last one, you scum. Madara raised his blade, his aura becoming even more oppressive. This guy. Kyosuke took a deep breath, knowing that Dance King, Madara, had reached the threshold of advancing to a Jonin. After this battle, Uchiha would gain another true powerhouse. Slowly lifting his short blade, Kyosuke crouched slightly, resembling a black panther watching its prey. Jonin. Such a big prize, with thousands of points. If given the chance, he had to try to steal the kill. If it were anyone else, they might resent him for doing so, but with the Dance King, Madara, there was no need to worry about that. Damn it. For the points, I'm going all in today. Kyosuke quickly formed hand signs, and his chakra began to surge wildly. His already sore body felt like it was about to tear apart. Yes, in order to steal the kill, Kyosuke was about to forcefully use the teleportation jutsu. I'll die, but I'll take you all with me. Knowing he was doomed, Naruto chose to abandon resistance. Gathering all his chakra, shadows began to spread rapidly around his feet. The shadow blades that rose from the ground pierced through everyone in the surrounding area. Ninja art, explosive shadow concealment. Come with me to hell. Having abandoned defense completely, Naruto knew he couldn't escape the shadow blade's assault. The technique would spread faster without control over its power. Uchiha's 2 younger prodigy would have to lose at least 1 life. Retreat. Madara's face suddenly changed. His chakra exploded, and he retreated rapidly. But the shadow blades were too fast. As he leapt, sharp spikes resembled a death scythe rose from the ground beneath him. I, Madara Uchiha, will never die here. At the crucial moment, a mysterious power seemed to surge within him. His raging chakra transformed into a slash, and the shadow blade, which seemed capable of destroying everything, turned to dust under his sword. Bastard! Narakinshu gritted his teeth, knowing that he couldn't kill this person. He then turned his weapon towards the younger Kyosuke, intending to take him to the afterlife as well. It's over. Kyosuke's heart raced, and a single thought kept echoing in his mind. I can't escape. He didn't have Madara's overwhelming physical strength and couldn't break the desperate strike of a Jonin. As for dodging, the teleportation jutsu, in its explosive form, emphasized charging forward without any rapid turns or retreats. In other words, at this moment, his only choice was to rush forward. System prompt, 5,000 points consumed. Shizue's teleportation jutsu upgraded to level 2, at the brink of life and death. Kyosuke paid no attention to anything else and directly used points to forcefully increase the level of his ninjutsu. Die for me. The ground cracked beneath his feet, and in an instant, Kyosuke's figure vanished from his spot. In the distance, Madara, leaning on his sword, had an expression of fury, as though his gaze could ignite everything. He silently vowed that if anything happened to Kyosuke, he would slaughter the southern 3 clans and leave not a single soul alive. At that moment, the other battles also came to an end. However, no one felt any joy. The boy with the greatest talent in Uchiha history was likely going to die at the hands of the enemy. Damn! Some clan members screamed angrily, their eyes glowing red. Brother! With a familiar shout, Izuna arrived, leading a group of genin. Seeing the bodies on the ground, Izuna felt his scalp tingle, relieved to see his older brother unharmed. Looking around, he sighed and said, "Thanks to that guy, we've avoided a major disaster. By the way, where did he go? Did he run away in fear?" Izuna was about to make a joke, but when he saw the solemn expressions on everyone's faces, he stopped. He blinked, gradually understanding. No way, could it be? Patting his younger brother's shoulder, Madara spoke in a low voice. "Notify the clan. It's impossible, how could this happen? I haven't even gotten my revenge on you, and you dare to die?" Izuna lowered his head, his negative emotions surging. In the clan, everyone regarded him as the son of the clan leader and Madara's younger brother. Only Kyosuke had truly treated him as his Uchiha. "We promised we'd fight side by side in the future, you lying bastard." Izuna clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with a strange light. "Izuna." Madara closed his eyes in pain, unsure of how to speak. A sorrowful atmosphere spread, and the others exchanged bitter smiles, feeling no joy from their victory. Until... "Hey, you bastard, have you finished cursing?" A barely audible murmur made everyone's breathing quicken. Turning in disbelief, they saw a figure stumbling out of the shadowy forest created by the enemy. "Quick, help me up." Kyosuke laughed weakly, and two dark, spinning Sharingan slowly appeared in his eyes. Chapter 13, The Three Heroes of Uchiha. The news of an attack on the Uchiha clan's territory spread quickly across the land. Upon hearing the news, Tajima rushed back at full speed, risking his life to ensure he reached the clan that very night. After being briefed on what had occurred, Tajima immediately headed to the medical facility without a moment's hesitation. Inside the room, Kyosuke lay unconscious, surrounded by 5 skilled medical ninjas discussing possible treatment plans. Tajima issued a direct command after a brief inquiry: "Do whatever it takes to save him. You have full access to the clan's medicine reserves. If you fail to heal him or restore him to his original condition, find yourselves a rope and end it." Casting one deep glance at the bandaged Kyosuke, who resembled a mummy, Tajima turned and left. He had something else to verify. In the adjacent room, Tajima found his 2 sons talking. Ignoring any inquiries about their health, his first words were, "Both of you awakened your Sharingan?" The brothers exchanged a glance before simultaneously channeling chakra to activate the newly acquired Sharingan. The next moment, ha ha ha. Tajima's laughter reverberated throughout the entire medical facility. Madara Uchiha had awakened his Sharingan at age 10, but Izuna was even more extraordinary. He had just turned 7. What did this mean? Izuna had tied the record held by Kyosuke. Tajima, the proud father of 2 extraordinary children, felt unstoppable. He thought of Senju Batsuma, who constantly praised his sons to anyone who would listen. In the future, on the battlefield, Tajima would prove who the superior father was. "The bloodline of Tajima Uchiha surpasses all others," he declared. Watching their father laugh hysterically, Madara sighed and gave Izuna a look. "Stop him before he embarrasses himself further." Understanding the silent message, Izuna cautiously interrupted. Father. About that. It seems Kyosuke has already awakened the Tutomui Sharingan." The laughter ceased instantly. Kyosuke finally regained consciousness. "Ugh, a strange ceiling," he murmured. The heavy scent of medicinal herbs in the room made him sneeze lightly, which triggered an indescribable wave of pain. Oh, come on. Seriously? He muttered bitterly, even breathing as carefully as possible. The sensation was akin to sitting on a toilet for 2 hours and then standing up all at once. A pain only those who've experienced it could truly understand. Hearing his muttered complaints, a group of medical ninjas soon entered the room. Don't worry. Your recovery is progressing well, said an elderly ninja with graying hair, smiling kindly. Rest well, young hero. In this battle, Kyosuke had undoubtedly earned the most merit. No one could diminish his contribution. After exchanging a few words about recovery, the medics left. Left with nothing to do, Kyosuke decided to open his system panel to review the spoils of his recent battle. System notification: defeated Nara clan Jonin. Earned 3,600 points. Defeating an enemy had earned him a substantial reward. His system points, which had been depleted by upgrading his jutsu, had now returned to 4,000 points. In essence, he had freely upgraded his teleportation jutsu to level 2. However, speed alone wasn't enough to dodge a Jonin's death blow. What had saved his life was the evolution of his Sharingan at the most critical moment. In just 1 year, he had advanced from initial awakening to the Tutomui stage. By Uchiha standards, he was already a peerless genius. But compared to future generations, this achievement seemed modest. In the original storyline, Sasuke unlocked the Sharingan during the Land of Waves mission. After returning to Hidden Leaf Village, he participated in the Chunin exams. During the Forest of Death, his Sharingan evolved to the Tutomui state when facing Orochimaru. The gap between these events was only a few days. Soon after, during the Sound Village's invasion and Sasuke's subsequent defection, he reached the Three Tomui stage at the Valley of the End. In just 6 months, Sasuke had accomplished an unprecedented triple evolution. If such feats occurred in the current era, that would terrify the entire Uchiha clan. Indra's chakra really is something else. Kyosuke mused, thinking about his apparent connection to Indra. Naturally, this led him to recall another figure, Black Zetsu. Kyosuke was certain that Black Zetsu had already started monitoring him. Awakening the Sharingan at 7 years old made him a prime candidate for Indra's reincarnation. If Kyosuke were unaware of the broader story, he too might believe the same. However, with Madara's Sharingan now awakened, his Otsutsuki genes would soon begin to activate. Even Black Zetsu would realize he had targeted the wrong person. Feeling free of Black Zetsu's surveillance, Kyosuke felt relieved and began planning his next steps. It was only a matter of time before Tajima, upon learning of his Tutomui Sharingan, would grow wary and send him far away. Although it wouldn't be overt persecution, exile would effectively distance him from the clan's core. While some ambitious individuals might resent such a fate, Kyosuke welcomed it. He preferred to stay as far from the main battlefield as possible. The Southern Tri-Clan alliance was strong, particularly the Inoshikacho formation, but they were no match for even half of Senju Batsuma's forces. Kyosuke intended to wait until he reached Jonin level strength before engaging directly. Until then, the southern region would serve as his training ground. Elsewhere, much of the ninja world was buzzing about the Uchiha. As a renowned clan in the Warring States period, the Uchiha always attracted attention. The saying goes, "Your greatest observer is always your enemy." The awakening of 3 prodigious talents within the Uchiha clan had many grasping the implications. Under mysterious influences, the title 3 Uchiha heroes began spreading far and wide. As their fame grew, so did the bounties on their heads in underground circles. Countless bounty hunters were eager to target these young geniuses. Behind the scenes, certain forces clearly hoped to eliminate the Uchiha's promising next generation. At the same time, this gave Tajima the perfect excuse to act. Half a month later, after recovering from his severe injuries, Kyosuke received his next assignment. He was ordered to join the Southern Forces as a unit leader, responsible for commanding a team of up to 30 ninjas. While it wasn't a meteoric rise, it was a genuine position of authority. With careful management, Kyosuke could build a loyal faction of his own. Provided there were those willing to serve under an 8-year-old commander. Chapter 14, Return to the Legion and Killing to establish authority. The Land of Fire, Southern Border, a dense forest 20 kilometers away from the southern base. Amidst towering trees reaching into the clouds, several figures darted through the forest like lightning. One of the most distinctive features of the Naruto world, apart from the ninja, is its remarkable greenery. Enormous trees standing dozens of meters tall are a common sight, making a person standing on them appear as small as a bird. Because of this, the planet has managed to develop chakra, a representation of life force, to a level that even astonishes the Otsutsuki clan. Lord Kyosuke. I know. After signaling a few hand gestures, the group appeared to move casually but had actually made preparations in secret. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A barrage of shuriken came without warning. The 7th ambush since they had set out. As a member of the Uchiha Three Heroes, Kyosuke's head was highly valued, naturally attracting many hunters. However, they underestimated the young man's strength and the power of his escorts. Before departing, Madara had quietly gifted him something. Learning that Kyosuke had been appointed as a unit commander, Madara, worried about him commanding respect, handpicked 2 of the best escorts to assist him. The male escort, Izumi Uchiha, was at the peak of elite Chunin strength, excelling in fire-style jutsu and close combat. The female escort, Ma Uchiha, had just advanced to the elite Chunin level, skilled in Ganjutsu and medical ninjutsu, and was attentive to details. Madara's gift was a significant advantage. With their assistance, even if no one else wanted to join his unit, Kyosuke's position as a unit leader would remain secure. In the forest, 3 Sharingan activated simultaneously, effortlessly dodging the dense wave of shuriken. Clasping his hands together, Izumi Uchiha unleashed a fiery attack. Fire style, Great Fireball. The powerful fire-style jutsu forced the hidden enemies into the open. Seizing the opportunity, Kyosuke drew his short sword and threw a few shuriken in reverse, putting the enemy on the defensive. By the time they reacted, the gleaming edge of his blade was already upon them. Blood splattered as Kyosuke swiftly killed one of them. Do they really think someone like this could take my life? Kyosuke muttered, shaking his head in disappointment at the meager rewards. Compared to Jonin, these rogue geinin were utterly insignificant. Still, every bit of reward points mattered, and he wouldn't let any go to waste. Driven by the principle of thrift, Kyosuke turned to the next enemy. With a swing of his sword, he earned 40 points with ease. Kyosuke's sword dart was impressive, and his 2 Tomoe Sharingan allowed him to perfectly read the movements of geinin. His battles often ended in either instantaneous kills or intense struggles. These low-grade bounty hunters weren't enough to challenge him. Soon, the sudden skirmish ended, leaving Kyosuke with 3 kills and over 120 points. Attacks are becoming more frequent. Maya remarked. They probably fear we'll slip away. Izumi Uchiha responded coldly. Fools. Lord Kyosuke killed a Jonin from the Nara clan. How could they think they stand a chance? People die for money. Kyosuke said, shaking his head before resuming the journey to the Southern Legion. The outside world was abuzz with tales of his feat of slaying 2 Jonin. In reality, only Kyosuke himself knew the truth. The Yamanaka clan's Jonin had fallen due to an accident caused by his secret technique. As for the Nara Jonin, his desperate counterattack nearly took both him and Madara down. Currently, with his 2 Tomoe Sharingan and teleportation jutsu, Kyosuke could potentially defeat elite Chunin-level opponents if he fought recklessly. But against Jonin-level foes, even escaping would be a luxury. Outsiders might misunderstand, but Kyosuke knew his limits well. Fortunately, Kyosuke wasn't the type to be blindly arrogant. He had already planned to start taking on missions frantically upon reaching the Southern Legion. Building merits, accumulating points, and recruiting subordinates once he was strong enough. If Tajima Uchiha wanted to play dirty tricks, Kyosuke would show him what it meant to fail miserably. The next afternoon, the group finally arrived at their destination after traveling non-stop. After verifying their identities, the 3 entered the military camp. You 2 go rest first. Kyosuke ordered. As a unit leader, he had the privilege of his own quarters. While other ninjas shared tents, he could arrange his space however he liked. Once his subordinates had left, Kyosuke adjusted his clothing and made his way alone to the Southern Legion commander's tent. But halfway there, several Uchiha clan members stopped him. The commander is in a meeting. One man said loudly, drawing others' attention. Frowning slightly, Kyosuke patiently handed over his proof of identity. As a unit commander, he had the right to meet Rei Uchiha at any time. It was understandable if they didn't recognize him since he had just returned. The man frowned and scrutinized the document. But instead of letting Kyosuke pass, he threw the appointment letter back at him. I said, the commander is in a meeting. I don't care who you are. The man's attitude was arrogant. Even though Kyosuke was young, his position as a unit commander was undeniable. Such behavior was a blatant insult to a superior officer. My appointment couldn't have gone unnoticed by the Legion. Rei Uchiha is cunning, he would recognize Tajima's intentions. In other words, this man is deliberately targeting me. He was one of Tajima's people. Realizing this, Kyosuke's gaze grew calm. Amidst the mixed looks of sympathy and ridicule around him, Kyosuke raised his hands and began forming seals slowly. What's he doing? Is he really going to fight in the camp? Is he out of his mind? Should we stop him? Are you stupid? Can't you see what's happening? The crowd buzzed with disbelief at Kyosuke's actions. No one was more shocked than the man in front of him. Indeed, he was one of Tajima's men, but his actions today were entirely his own decision. Tajima wanted to hinder Kyosuke's development, and this man figured publicly humiliating Kyosuke would both harm his confidence and destroy his authority. A win-win. What he hadn't anticipated was that this 8-year-old would dare to strike back in front of everyone. Insulting a superior officer is a crime punishable by death. In the Naruto world, hierarchy was strict. Particularly in the Warring States era, insulting a superior could warrant execution on the spot. And that was precisely what Kyosuke intended to do. As he finished the hand seals, the teleportation jutsu activated instantly. A flash of light, and Kyosuke appeared behind the man. "You!" The man clutched his bleeding neck, regret written all over his face as he collapsed to the ground. The entire camp fell into silence. Chapter 15, Practice for 2.5 years at the Legion's headquarters, inside the commander's tent. "I'm very sorry, Lord Ray." Kyosuke humbly apologized, fully aware of the importance of lowering his stance. Now that the clan leader had started suppressing him openly and secretly, he needed to find a powerful patron. Ray Uchiha was the perfect candidate. Killing Tajima Man in public was Kyosuke's way of presenting a pledge of allegiance. If not for this purpose, that unfortunate guy actually didn't deserve to die. However, failing to assess the situation before jumping out to act was his own fault. His death was inevitable. Ha 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 ha. Ignoring the fact that Kyosuke had killed someone in public, Ray Uchiha warmly pulled him aside to a seat. It was clear that the commander was very satisfied with this pledge. "My little hero, you've finally returned," Ray Uchiha said, half-jokingly winking at him with a teasing smile. "Didn't I tell you? That clan leader is not someone with a magnanimous heart." Hearing this, Kyosuke nodded and humbly responded. "Thanks to your guidance, my lord." The two discussed internal clan affairs for a while. After some time, the commander tentatively asked, "Do you need me to assign you some subordinates?" "No need." Kyosuke shook his head and refused. "Forcing things won't bring good results. I'll prove everything with my actions." "Good, as expected of the future pillar of our clan," Ray Uchiha praised, though inwardly he couldn't help but smirk. Still too naive. The commander sighed but decided against openly rejecting Kyosuke's idea. In truth, Ray was also worried that Kyosuke might not hold the line and create a major mess. After all, cleaning up the aftermath would ultimately fall on him. 2.5 years of practice first, Ray Uchiha concluded, setting the terms for Kyosuke's new role. With his command, forming a team for Kyosuke wouldn't have been a difficult task. The fact that Kyosuke couldn't see this indicated he still had some growing to do. As for Kyosuke's claim about proving himself, Ray wasn't entirely convinced. On the battlefield, individual power was often insignificant. Even a clan leader couldn't single-handedly withstand the smallest-scale Legion-level jutsu. "Here's what we'll do." Considering Kyosuke's unique situation, Ray Uchiha granted him freedom of action. "You decide which tasks to take, but your safety must be the top priority. I don't want to lose you, understand?" "Yes, my lord." Such a talented youth would undoubtedly become a valuable aid in the future. Even if it meant keeping him idle for a few years, Ray Uchiha didn't want to risk sending Kyosuke to the front lines. Unfortunately, his wish would not come true. Why did Kyosuke refuse to recruit subordinates? The reason was simple: he feared having too many followers would result in them stealing his kills. A larger team meant facing greater dangers, making it harder to earn battle points. There was also the awkward possibility of others snatching his credit. After all, not everyone could resist the benefits brought by achievements. Rather than deal with such headaches, it was better to stick with a 3-person team. This way, he could avoid drawing too much attention to his talents while quietly lurking in the shadows, waiting for the day he could soar to new heights. When he became strong enough, many things would no longer be up to others to decide. Back at his assigned camp area, Kyosuke packed up briefly and quickly headed to the mission assignment center. For now, the 3 clans' failed plans meant they weren't making any significant moves. The situation was relatively calm, with conflicts limited to small skirmishes. This suited Kyosuke's plans perfectly. Presenting the commander's written order, Kyosuke bypassed the usual task selection rules and began browsing through a thick stack of war commissions. Mission name: infiltrate the Yamanaka clan's territory to investigate enemy strategy. Difficulty: S rank. Damn, this is a pure suicide mission. Not doing it. Mission name: plundering the Akimeki sprout. Difficulty: S rank. Akimeki Mitsutashi's daughter? That's still deep behind enemy lines. Outrageous. Mission name: ambush supply convoy. Difficulty: B rank. Huh, this one seems decent. Kyosuke grabbed the mission sheet and carefully read through its details. According to intelligence from spies, the 3 clans were still relocating their population. After suffering a previous loss, they were taking extra precautions to maintain secrecy, leaving no way to trace the exact relocation routes. With no alternatives, the Legion decided to target their supplies. Wherever the clan members were going, they'd still need food and necessities. Tracing the supply routes might reveal useful clues. Ninjas transporting supplies would definitely use scroll seals to simplify logistics. That means the convoy won't be too large, likely guarded by elite escort units. Jonin were a vital strategic resource and wouldn't be deployed for simple escort tasks. If something went wrong, the loss of a Jonin couldn't be justified by any amount of supplies. Thus, Kyosuke deduced that the convoy would likely be guarded by Chunin, which fit his hunting criteria perfectly. Points, 4,124. By now, Kyosuke had invested heavily in his taijutsu. Sharingan plus teleportation jutsu plus Uchiha sword dart were enough to deal with most Chunin. Next, he planned to save points to exchange for high-level jutsu capable of overwhelming Jonin. Shishui's advanced teleportation jutsu had earned Kyosuke a reputation as a ninja prodigy. However, he knew he wasn't the true innovator of such techniques. Even if he remembered some hand seals, without understanding the corresponding chakra flow patterns, he couldn't recreate advanced jutsu. For now, his only option was to use points to exchange for abilities. Perhaps in the future, when he had time to spare, he'd exchange for some jutsu knowledge. For now, his focus remained solely on battle. Putting away the mission sheet, Kyosuke returned to his camp and informed his two subordinates. "Get ready. We're leaving in 10 minutes. He then headed to the supply area, intending to leverage his rank to obtain some useful gear. Inside the camp, the two subordinates exchanged glances, their thoughts diverging. Izumi Uchiha, Lord Kyosuke truly lives up to his role as the future pillar of our clan. Such boldness is inspiring. Ma Uchiha, doesn't he need rest? No wonder the young clan leader holds him in high regard." At first, both had minor complaints about their assignment to Kyosuke. They believed their skills were better suited for the main battlefield. But after spending time with him, especially witnessing his decisive show of force in the camp, they gradually realized that this boy had ambition and ability equal to the young clan leader himself. Following him might just lead to a brighter future. 10 minutes later at the camp entrance, the three regrouped. After distributing the gear he'd acquired, the team set out along the route detailed in the intelligence, heading toward the convoy's expected path. Chapter 16. A year passes quickly amidst the forest. An intense battle raged on for over 10 minutes. "Izumi, you handle controlling Maya? I'll deal with them," Kyosuke commanded. As soon as he spoke, he dashed toward the enemy with his short blade. 10 minutes earlier, their team had successfully intercepted the enemy group. Lacking long-range firepower, they had Izumi Uchiha initiate the attack with a fire-style jutsu while Kyosuke led Maya in close-range combat. However, this time, they encountered a formidable foe. The enemy team was equipped with a well-coordinated Inoshikacho trio, working in seamless harmony. The Akimaki member, using the expansion jutsu, disrupted Kyosuke and Maya's charge. Meanwhile, the cunning Yamanaka clan member took control of Maya's body. Risking it all, Kyosuke used the teleportation jutsu to eliminate the enemies in front of him. But when he turned around, Maya was already holding a kunai to his throat. System notification: killed an Akimaki Chunin. Gain 280 points, surrender now, or this woman dies. The enemy threatened. Surrender? That was no different from committing suicide. Falling into the hands of the Inoshikacho trio would undoubtedly lead to a fate worse than death for Kyosuke. Maya? Izumi Uchiha's voice rang out, filled with despair and seething hatred like a vengeful specter. Only then did Kyosuke realize that there was a special bond between the two of them. "I'll surrender," Kyosuke said. As soon as the words left his mouth, Maya shot him a sharp glance. But as their eyes met, the Yamanaka realized something was amiss. Within Kyosuke's blood-red Sharingan, an ominous power began to stir. As someone with exceptionally strong spiritual roots, Kyosuke had naturally mastered the most basic yet powerful illusion of the Sharingan. Ganjutsu, Sharingan. Kyosuke's consciousness infiltrated Maya's body, his crimson eyes shrouding the enemy's spirit with overwhelming pressure. With a burst of ocular power, the Yamanaka was forcibly expelled from Maya's body, leading to the current situation. Drawing his short blade, Kyosuke lunged toward the Yamanaka ninja like a whirlwind. He knew the Nara member would desperately attempt to save his comrade. As expected, a black shadow darted toward him from the ground as Kyosuke charged forward. The loyalty among the Inoshikacho trio was indeed touching, but Kyosuke was determined to send all three to the Pure Land together. Forming quick hand seals, Kyosuke's figure blurred into an afterimage, closing the distance in an instant. His blade flashed, and blood splattered. A severed head flew skyward. System notification: killed the Nara Chunin. Gained 310 points, damn it. Kyosuke gasped, collapsing onto the ground as his muscles spasmed uncontrollably. He could only watch helplessly as Izumi ran off to claim his kills. "Ugh, I'll get you for this," Kyosuke muttered before fainting. In such a short amount of time, using the high-difficulty teleportation jutsu twice in a row, He was completely overexerting himself, forcefully fighting by draining his future strength. Luckily, the 590 points he earned somewhat compensated for his injuries and emotional strain. Something's wrong. Lord Kyosuke has collapsed. Maya struggled to her feet and stumbled to Kyosuke's side, taking out medical supplies to treat him. Behind her, Izumi remained silent, his head hung low as though still trapped in the despair of the earlier moment. Tears dripped onto the ground as Maya choked back sobs. He didn't abandon me. Lord Madara was right. Kyosuke-sama is someone worth following. Though she didn't say it aloud, as a medical ninja, Maya knew the toll the teleportation jutsu had taken on Kyosuke's young, 8-year-old body. From that moment, the two subordinates, originally transferred from Madara Uchiha, fully pledged their loyalty to Kyosuke. After rambling on for quite a while, Maya suddenly realized that her boyfriend had been ignoring her. Curiously turning her head, she immediately noticed his blood-red eyes. Within them, 3 dark tomoe were slowly spinning. An entire day and night passed before Kyosuke finally woke up from his unconscious state. When Kyosuke finally woke up after an entire day and night, his first thought was, an unfamiliar ceiling. Without needing to look, he knew his body must be wrapped in bandages. Overexerting oneself was often seen as reckless, but Kyosuke didn't mind too much. In the system shop, there were potions that could perfectly heal the body. For 5,000 points, he could repair all injuries and hidden ailments over time. Higher grade potions could even restore him in mere moments, but the price? Better not think about it. At the very least, his desperate actions had earned him the loyalty of his 2 promising subordinates. Without their full allegiance, Kyosuke always felt a bit uneasy using them in battle. Turning his head with effort, Kyosuke saw Maya sleeping soundly beside him. Before, she would never have behaved so casually in his presence. This change warmed his heart. Success. Sigh, pushing so hard every time will only lead to trouble. During his recovery, Kyosuke began to seriously reflect on this issue for the first time. At this point, his safety was temporarily assured. Both subordinates had completely pledged their loyalty, especially Izumi Uchiha, who, after the previous incident, successfully awakened the 3 Tomoe Sharingan. In terms of combat strength, Izumi now had the ability to contend with a Jonin at full power. For future missions, the safety margin was undoubtedly much higher. However, this also meant that Izumi might be more likely to steal his kills. No way, I must restrict his actions. I'll use the excuse that I need real combat experience for training. A week later, Kyosuke was discharged from the hospital. Acknowledging the need for efficiency, he decided to focus on enhancing his abilities instead of rushing into more missions. This time, his goal was not ninjutsu but genjutsu, seeking instruction from Maya to address his lack of mid-range combat options. After a period of focused study, Kyosuke finally mastered some basic genjutsu. When the team set out again, they resumed their relentless hunt for Inoshikacho ninjas. Over time, Kyosuke regained his reputation as the demon face Azura. To diminish the impact of his age, Kyosuke even began wearing a ghostly mask during missions and while in camp. Of course, there were times of danger. On multiple occasions, the trio faced ambushes from the 3 clans. If not for Izumi's exceptional strength and willingness to risk his life for Kyosuke, the Ashura might have already met his end. A year passed in the blink of an eye. Kyosuke finally amassed enough points for the next phase of his journey. Chapter 17, Have you ever heard thousand birds singing? 2 months ago, the Senju clan launched a surprise attack. The Uchiha suffered heavy losses, retreating 100 miles before they could barely regroup. In this battle, more than 100 clan members perished, and Madara Uchiha's last brother was stabbed through the abdomen. The guilt in his heart made him briefly consider abandoning the war. Hiding this from his father and brother, he went to the riverbank daily to calm his mind and heal the psychological trauma caused by the war. There, he met a friend who shared the same troubles. The two immediately hit it off, quickly becoming close friends with no secrets between them. At the same time, they vaguely sensed each other's identities. The conflict on the main battlefield immediately sparked a significant ripple effect in various regions. Originally planning to retreat from the southern front and move deeper into the Land of Fire to recover, the 3 clans, for some unknown reason, suddenly began launching frequent attacks on the Uchiha forces. In a month, there were over 20 skirmishes. Though the scale of the battles couldn't compare to the main battlefield, the cruelty of war remained the same everywhere. Find them. You must find the hideout of those bastards. Within the commander's tent, Rei Uchiha's furious roars echoed repeatedly. The actions of the 3 clans were highly cunning, continuously avoiding direct confrontation. With the Nara clan involved, creating battle plans became exceptionally easy. Strategically, the Uchiha were always at a disadvantage. Unable to conduct a direct siege, splitting the battlefield had become the status quo. However, against the coordinated tactics of the Inoshikacho trio, The same-sized Uchiha teams found themselves at a disadvantage. In just over a month, battle reports recorded a chilling casualty ratio of 2.13. If this continued, the gap in war potential between the two sides would shrink rapidly. When that day arrived, the Southern Front would face a dire situation. I need prisoners, high-ranking prisoners. You useless bunch. If you can't capture anyone, I'll have your hides. After a round of furious shouting and smashing, a group of unit captains scrambled out of the tent in embarrassment. Capture prisoners? Easier said than done. Did they think the enemy clans were fools? Currently, the initiative lay with the enemy. If they didn't want to fight, there was nothing the Uchiha could do, no matter how angry they got. By now, even a fool could see that the three clans were cooperating with the Senju. Without a decisive result on the main battlefield, there would never be an all-out final confrontation. Oh, if the Southern Army weakened enough, the main forces of the three clans might show up. But by then, who would be the target of annihilation would be an open question. With heavy thoughts weighing on their minds, the unit captains returned to their camps to prepare their next moves. Before leaving, they all cast varying glances at the figure waiting outside the tent. The sight of the menacing mask, akin to that of a demon or grim reaper, struck fear into their hearts. They all knew who this person was. And because of that, they couldn't suppress the amazement they felt. 9 years old. At such a young age, he had already become the most dazzling star on the battlefield. His achievements had won over everyone. In this time, many clansmen had applied to join him, hoping to make their mark under his leadership. However, Kyosuke decisively refused every single one of them. His three-man team had developed perfect coordination and a clean, efficient combat style, hitting and retreating without hesitation. Adding others would not increase their combat effectiveness but instead disrupt the rhythm of his hunting operations. Recruiting people was on his agenda. Kyosuke knew he needed to start building his power base. But the time wasn't right yet. He already had a plan, one that, if executed well, would attract a lot of talented individuals. For now, he needed to find a way to end this stalemate. If the situation deteriorated, everyone would face punishment from within the clan. Pulling back the curtain, he entered the tent. The place was already in shambles, anything breakable had been smashed to pieces. Even so, Rei Uchiha sat there, stewing in anger. At this moment, few people other than Kyosuke would dare to approach him. Lord Rei. Kyosuke maintained his respectful tone. Oh, it's little Kyosuke. Seeing his most talented subordinate, the old man forced himself to calm down and squeezed out a smile. How many did you take down this time? Shaking his head without answering, Kyosuke went straight to the point. I have an idea that might lure out a high-ranking enemy commander. Is that true? Rei Uchiha's eyes lit up. His biggest headache right now was finding the enemy. If they could capture a high-value prisoner, the army could launch a full-scale assault and recoup all their losses in one move. Kyosuke then explained his plan in detail. No way. Rei Uchiha shot up from his seat, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at his prized subordinate. Do you even know what you're saying? I'll use myself as bait to draw the enemy into an ambush. As long as we can ensure success, the three clans will definitely send out significant figures. Ensure success. Rei Uchiha clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and asked. Do you realize this means you'll face an enemy you absolutely cannot defeat? Yes. Kyosuke replied calmly. There's a high chance they'll send a perfect Inoshikacho trio to intercept me. A perfect Inoshikacho meant a team fully capable of executing every tactic, typically composed of 3 elite Jonin. In other words, Kyosuke would be facing a Jonin-level Inoshikacho trio, likely accompanied by additional support. The commander knew the boy had strength rivaling a Jonin. But this was too risky. Even a small mistake could cost them everything. The Nara clan was known for their cunning. They would thoroughly investigate before making a move. With the Yamanaka clan's exceptional sensory abilities, setting up an ambush would be nearly impossible. Facing 3 Jonin alone, especially a perfectly coordinated Inoshikacho team, even Rei Uchiha himself would hesitate to guarantee victory. Could it be that the boy already had Jonin-level strength? The commander doubted it. He knew that during the clan's raid years ago, the boy and Madara had worked together to eliminate an infiltrating Inoshikacho team. But that situation had been entirely different. If the Yamanaka hadn't been injured, or if the Inoshikacho's coordination hadn't been disrupted, or if there had been fewer ninja willing to die for the clan. Any one of those factors changing would have led to a completely different outcome. This kid is getting too full of himself. I can't let him drag me into this madness. Kyosuke was the clan's future hope. Rei Uchiha would never gamble with his life. Understanding this, Kyosuke raised his arm slowly, his voice calm yet firm. Lord Rei, please allow me to demonstrate my confidence. What did he mean? Before Rei could react, a flash of lightning burst forth. In an instant, The camp resounded with a sound like the chirping of 1,000 birds. Chapter 18, Chidori, the most suitable jutsu for the Uchiha clan. In the end, Rei Uchiha agreed to his action plan. Returning to the tent, Kyosuke informed the two and hoped they would be mentally prepared. Hee. Ma Uchiha smiled and kept fiddling with a pale pink kunai. I've always said, wherever Lord Kyosuke wants to go, even to the Pure Land, I'll follow him. Same here. Izumi Uchiha nodded beside her. After being promoted to Jonin, he had become increasingly taciturn. To be precise, it should be said that he was influenced by the bloodline within him. The second Hokage once said that the Uchiha clan was cursed, and now Kyosuke was starting to agree with this statement more and more. Speaking of Senju Tobirama, his thoughts drifted thousands of miles away. It had been calculated that Madara was now 11 years old, and unless the plot changed, he had likely already become friends with Senju Hashirama. Their meeting would mark the official countdown to the Warring States period. The era of the shinobi villages was about to begin, provided that the two could break through the obstacles of the older generation of ninjas. It was still too early to discuss this now. Shaking his head, Kyosuke focused his attention on the current situation. After a year of slaughter, he had successfully made it onto the enemy's kill list. It was obvious that many eyes were watching him, always looking for the right moment to strike. Since that was the case, he decided to take the initiative. If you don't move, I won't either, but once I do, you'll feel the pain. It's like a date. If the girl doesn't give any opportunity, the guy can only wander around at the entrance forever. Now, Kyosuke would give the three clans a chance to ambush him. As for the confidence to deal with them, first, Izumi Uchiha had firmly established himself as a Jonin. He was considered a trump card. Ma Uchiha, after years of battle, had developed extraordinary Genjutsu skills. Not long ago, their team had been ambushed by Jonin-level ninjas, and at the critical moment, her Sharingan finally evolved into the Three Tomoe state. She had essentially become a Jonin specializing in Genjutsu, a stronger version of Kurenai Yui. Two Jonin-level warriors. As for Kyosuke himself, name, Kyosuke Uchiha. Age, 9 years old. Physical strength, Chunin mental strength, peak Chunin chakra amount, peak Chunin skills, Uchiha style sword art, level 5, 3 body technique, level 5, throwing technique, level 6, chakra control, level 4, hand seals, level 4, Shizue style teleportation jutsu, level 3, Chidori, level 2, KK Genkai, Sharingan, 2 Tomoe, summoning beast, non-ninja tools, non-points, 1275. In the past year, he had fought desperately and had little time to consolidate his power. He had achieved remarkable battle results, and his points were considerable. Various combat skills had improved to varying degrees. However, in terms of raw strength, he had still not broken through the Chunin barrier. However, when it came to mid-range combat, neither Izumi nor Maya possessed the same terrifying deterrent power as him. The reason for this was that Kyosuke had exchanged for a knee-rank ninjutsu. The most suitable ninjutsu for the Uchiha clan to cultivate. Chidori. Chidori, a ninjutsu developed by Kakashi Hatake in his youth. This technique gathers lightning-style chakra in the palm, forming a high-intensity electric current. The hand becomes like a blade, with a powerful penetrating force. When activated, it sounds like 1,000 birds chirping, which is why it is named Chidori. To enhance the piercing power, the attack requires a certain distance to build up speed. If too fast, it may invite a counterattack from the enemy, so it must be used in conjunction with the Sharingan. With his Sharingan, Kyosuke's Chidori was as powerful as an S-rank ninjutsu. 12,000 points for the exchange was already quite worth it. It's worth noting that the Rasengan requires a price of 18,000 points and has much higher usage requirements compared to Chidori. With Kyosuke's current peak Chunin strength, as long as he's given the chance, taking out a Jonin would be no problem. Another important point is that Chidori's subsequent form changes are very suitable for Kyosuke to use. With it, many different ninjutsu techniques could be developed. Defensive Chidori flow, mid-range Chidori spear, close-range Chidori blade, and so on. In the future, if given time, Kyosuke might even develop the lightning-style Kirin technique. During his spare time, he would read books to deepen his understanding of techniques. Such a perfect ninjutsu, anyone would be tempted to exchange for it. Why weren't the others worried at all? That's because they knew very well the real combat strength of their team. If the Inoshika trio showed up, they would have to pay a heavy price. If not, Kyosuke would have to be crazy to set up such a bait plan. This move not only changes the course of the battle but also helps him solidify the position of the Southern Army. If he were to fall out with Dojima Uchiha, he must have enough leverage to counter him. Military deterrence, merit-based fame, and a pre-arranged gift. The combination of these three would be enough to win over a large group of loyal subordinates. Regardless of what happens in the future, the Uchiha clan must always have a place for Kyosuke. Even if he were to fall out with the Dancing King, Madara, in the future, it wouldn't matter. He would start anew, with loyal subordinates, and wherever he goes, he wouldn't fear. In the southern part of the Land of Fire, in a gorge near the border, the joint base of the three clans was quietly being set up here. In such a concealed place, without the help of the Hyuga clan, no one would be able to trace them here. Inside the tent, Akimeki Koken sighed as he looked at the battle report on the table. Rei Uchiha was feeling the same, deeply concerned about the high battle losses. The Uchiha clan was so powerful, and even though they had some tactical advantages and strategic benefits, after so many battles, they still couldn't secure the final victory. Why sigh? A light laugh came from outside the tent, and the curtain was lifted as Nara Higashihiko walked in with a smile. Nara Higashihiko, the current head of the Nara clan, had reached the elite Jonin level. He was a prominent figure in the Land of Fire, someone whom everyone had to be cautious about. "You're not worried at all?" Akimeki Mitsudashi said angrily. "My clan is at the front lines, and if this continues, we'll be wiped out." "Don't be angry." Nara Higashihiko waved his hand, a mysterious glint in his eyes. "I told you, I will come up with a satisfactory plan soon." He then placed a white sheet of paper in front of his friend. On it was a string of jumbled letters, and since Akimeki Mitsudashi was an unrefined man, he certainly couldn't recognize the encoded message. Luckily, Nara Higashihiko knew him well and personally wrote down the translation of the code. A quick glance at it made the Akimeki clan leader jump to his feet, bursting into hearty laughter. "Haha, he's finally taking the bait." The intelligence report stated that the demon face Azura was Rei Uchiha's most capable subordinate and someone extremely important to him. Capturing him would certainly help suppress the Uchiha's counterattack. Otherwise, the Southern Army would bear the disgrace of abandoning heroes and future hopes. Rei Uchiha, who had long been competing for the position of clan head, would never allow his reputation to be tarnished. To execute the capture, Nara Higashihiko had set many traps in secret. Heaven rewards the diligent, and at last, the opportunity had come. Chapter 19, High-End hunters often appear as prey. According to reports, the target had just left the camp. The mission at hand was a trap set up in advance by Nara Higashihiko. Finally, they've bitten the hook. A slight smirk appeared at the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with pride. What does it matter if the vicious Ashura is here or if the future hope of the Uchiha clan is involved? In the end, they would all have to drink his foot-washing water. Through his careful planning, the mission was disguised perfectly, and no one could spot the hidden agenda. Who would have guessed that strategic supplies, enough to support a small-scale war, would be used as bait to lure Russia into the trap? As long as the temptation is great enough, there is no prey that won't bite. Nara Higashihiko spoke with great confidence. However, he may not have heard a saying before, high-end hunters often appear as prey. Even though they couldn't find spies from the three clans, Kyosuke could guess with his little finger that the Southern Army had spies in the area. For the Yamanaka clan, controlling ninjas was as easy as breathing. If they really launched a large-scale inspection, it would only shake the Southern Army's fighting spirit. Unable to find the spies, it would be better to expose the mission they were executing. Kyosuke believed that the information would eventually reach the target's hands. His view on temptation and prey was in perfect alignment with Nara Higashihiko. "You want to find me? Fine, today I'll deliver myself right to your doorstep. Whether you can catch me or not depends on your skills." In fact, Nara Higashihiko knew full well that intercepting the vicious Ashura was a high-risk move. If someone were captured, their carefully built secret base would immediately fall under the Uchiha's watch. At that point, the southern region would truly have no place for them. But the problem was, did Nara Higashihiko have any better options? Yes, Senju Butsumo had promised to protect the three clans in the future. Hiding behind the Senju clan would indeed provide a period of peace and recovery, but it would also mean they would completely lose their independence. In name, the two sides would form an alliance, but in reality, the three clans would become the Senju's vassals. Proud as Nara Higashihiko was, there was no way he would willingly serve as someone's dog. If we capture him, we will have room to maneuver. He tapped his fingers lightly on the table, thinking it over for a while before deciding to stick to the original plan. Clap. He clapped his hands twice, and soon 7 people walked into the room. 3 Jonin, 4 elite Chunin, these were the weights he had prepared to capture the vicious Ashura. If there were too many people, the target might notice something unusual, and if the target escaped, it would be a big loss. If there were too few people, it would be hard to guarantee success, so a team of 7 was just right. Rumiko, Tetsuai, Kanbai. He called out the names of 3 individuals and said in a deep voice. The future of the Inoshikacho trio is entrusted to you. If we complete the mission, we will have a chance for a comeback. Yamanaka Romiko, skilled in mind transmission jutsu, was a beautiful woman with golden long hair. Naratetsuai, the team's strategist and backbone, was proficient in shadow techniques from various schools. Okimeki Kangai, the team's strongest fighter, possessed combat abilities approaching the level of an elite jonin. According to reports, the target's team had a jonin with a 3 Tomoe Sharingan. It was a difficult opponent, but it shouldn't pose a threat to the 3 of them. Sigh, so troublesome. Naratetsuai, who was younger, paid no attention to the clan leader's fiery speech. Wasn't joining the Senju clan good? Why bother with all this trouble? If things went wrong, they might even have to flee the land of fire. From his attitude, it was clear that not everyone in the clan was united. Some supported fighting to the end, while others didn't want to risk too much. Even so, Naratetsuai would still carry out the mission. No matter what, hating the Uchiha was a consensus among the 3 clans. If they could make the Uchiha uncomfortable, it would be worth it. Leave it to us. After speaking, Naratetsuai led his companions away. To infiltrate, he had to quickly meet with the transport team acting as the bait. Before acting, the vicious Ashura would definitely carry out reconnaissance. It was a dangerous confrontation, and any small mistake could lead to total failure. Land of Fire, Southern Region, Higurashi Town. Kyosuke, dressed in a gray cloak, entered the famous livestock town with a traveler's bag, appearing as a normal merchant. The scorching sun beat down on the earth, and the ground was filled with the muck from the rain, along with the strong, unpleasant odor of livestock. Being born into the Uchiha clan is truly the best. Kyosuke couldn't help but shake his head. He hadn't expected the basic sanitary conditions in towns outside would be so poor. Feeling the thick mud beneath his feet, he walked into the town, planning to find somewhere to have lunch and gather some intelligence. The merchants passing by were mostly dressed similarly to him, so Kyosuke didn't have to worry about exposing his identity too soon. He always wore a mask when out, making it hard for enemies to figure out his exact appearance. After all, code words could only convey text, and high-precision sketches were too difficult for intelligence agents to deal with. "Boss, I'll have a sushi set and a bottle of fresh milk." Kyosuke walked into a restaurant and sat by the window. He was still growing, so he couldn't be like Madara Uchiha, spending his days sneaking alcohol. Milk was the best thing for a growing child, and drinking more of it was never a bad thing. As a livestock town, they never lacked milk. Soon, a large glass of fresh milk was brought to him, and the delicious taste made young Kyosuke quite fascinated. Anyone who saw the boy gulping down the milk by the window wouldn't associate him with a notorious figure like the vicious Ashura. Turning his gaze away from the boy, the waiter continued observing other targets. Little did he know, Kyosuke had already noticed his every move. This person is suspicious. After a moment of thought, Kyosuke dismissed the idea of testing him. Higurashi town was a mixed bag, and all sorts of people could show up. The waiter's odd behavior may not necessarily be related to the 3 clans. Perhaps he was just scouting for easy targets. With a clink, Kyosuke placed his cup down and picked up a piece of sushi, casually glancing toward the street opposite. There, an abandoned shop stood. According to the intel, one of the transport teams from the 3 clans was currently stationed there. Kyosuke needed to observe the movements carefully to ensure there were no large enemy forces. Otherwise, he would have to abandon the bait plan. If I get too close to the shop, it will immediately raise the enemy's suspicions. I need to be very careful. At the very least, I must not let them realize I'm doing it on purpose. As he thought, Kyosuke looked back at the waiter. Perhaps this guy could be useful. Chapter 20, Chidori. Tearing through the night. Higurashi town's remote location made it an ideal breeding ground for all kinds of crime. The shop assistant was actually a spy cultivated by a group of thieves, tasked with identifying suitable prey. At first glance, Kyosuke seemed like an ordinary traveler, failing to capture the assistant's attention. However, one seemingly inadvertent action of his instantly exposed his wealthy status. If it weren't for the assistant's sharp eyes, they might have missed this lucrative target entirely. Damn, I almost let him fool me. Using the excuse of a bathroom break, the assistant discreetly released a carrier pigeon. Before long, the thieves' contact would appear in the town, and with him around, the young merchant wouldn't stand a chance. Hey, blame your own foolishness. The assistant's sinister laughter blended into the bustling noise of the shop. Outside, on the bustling street, a seemingly inconspicuous roadside vendor watched the pigeon fly off, cursing under his breath. Having been stationed there for several days, he was well aware of the assistant's shady dealings. Murdering travelers and robbing their goods wasn't an issue for him. What annoyed him was how the assistant's reckless actions could potentially disrupt his own plans. Tonight, I'll observe the situation. If it doesn't interfere with my plans, I'll just get rid of this idiot quietly. The man muttered, squinting his eyes to conceal the murderous intent within. This man was one of the 4 Chunin accompanying Naruto. His task was to monitor anyone approaching their trap, including Kyosuke, whom no one could escape his watchful eyes. The assistant's little tricks hadn't gone unnoticed by him either. Naturally, he also noticed the little boy actions. Meanwhile, after dinner, Kyosuke found a random inn nearby. Having no better options and seeing no action from the accomplice despite waiting for a long time, it became clear to him that the other side still needed time to prepare. With a general understanding of the situation, he decided to rest in place, fully embodying the fearless demeanor of naive youth. By day, he wandered around harmlessly like an ordinary passerby. By night, once the mask was on, he became untouchable and ruthless. Once his subordinates returned with intelligence, tonight would be the perfect moment for them to act. The hunting game begins now. Kyosuke murmured with a sinister smile. As night fell, the streets emptied, save for the occasional drunk stumbling out of taverns. The ninjas who had disguised themselves during the day now gathered around the wooden houses and shops, lying in wait for their enemies. Suddenly, a cry for help echoed from the end of the street. "Help me!" Immediately, the 7 ninjas tensed up, alert and ready. "It's that boy from earlier," one of them said while signaling discreetly. "Safe." The boy, noticing a drunken man in the corner, ran toward him like he had found salvation. At that moment, the disguised Chunin felt the urge to curse. The commotion could draw the enemy's attention, and if exposed, it might ruin their entire plan. Determined not to blow his cover, the Chunin, pretending to be a drunkard, decided to act unconscious. After all, no one would pay attention to a fallen, drunken middle-aged man. But then, a sudden pain in his chest stunned him. Before he could react,